Chapter 4662. All the water-repelling pearls in their inner worlds had been plundered by the bandits. They didn't even leave them a set of clothes to change into. What those deranged bandits had done was simply intolerable. Now, apart from the clothes they were wearing, all of their valuables had been taken away, except for the clothes they were wearing. There was no food, no medicinal pills, nothing at all. It was such a miserable situation. Duo Shanmei hit the water angrily. "Be careful, there's something under the water." While they were talking, the screams of a few Duo clan disciples came from not far away. "A school of corpse fish? Is it a school of corpse fish coming?" A disciple of the Duo clan screamed in panic. "Don't talk nonsense, there's no school of corpse fish. Look carefully, don't get entangled by seaweed. You're scaring yourself. Don't you think you're unlucky enough? Do you have to blindly come up with something for me to feel at ease?" Duo Shanmei shouted angrily, her face twisted. They had drifted for an entire night, and hadn't encountered any school of corpse fish. Did this mean that there wasn't much danger in these waters? "Quick, come out quick!" The stairway talisman flashed and several people fell from the light circle in the air, rolling and crawling. Zhao Yi and Gu Yishuan rushed forward to support Mu Xiaoxue, who almost fell to the ground. The two guards standing in front of the main gate of the City of Shadows were shocked when they saw this. They hurried forward and called out, "Senior Brother Zhao? Senior Brother Gu? Miss, what's wrong with you? Quick, look around and see if anyone's coming." Gu Yishuan yelled at the guard. "Hurry up, don't just stand there. Check the surroundings. If you see anyone suspicious, kill them." Zhao Yi glanced at him in disdain and mocked. "I think you're scared out of your wits. The stairway talisman can teleport you up to a distance of 2,000 miles. Junior sister used a total of 10 stairway talismans and a teleportation talisman array. Who do you think can travel 10,000 miles in a day and chase after us?" Gu Yishuan was so embarrassed that she didn't know what to say. Indeed, he was overly cautious and worried. According to normal speed, it was impossible for even someone who had attained the immortal Exalt realm to travel 5,000 kilometers in a single day. A transcendent god's divine sense could at most cover 1,000 miles. Gu Yishuan heaved a sigh of relief and turned around to glare at Zhao Yi. Although what Zhao Yi said was the truth, Gu Yishuan was not happy with his high and mighty and insufferably arrogant tone. Mu Xiaoxue was leaning against Zhao Yi's arm, gasping for breath. She sounded like she was about to cry. "Senior Brother Zhao, quick, help me to see my father. You have to save my mother. I can't let her fall into the hands of Arbor." "All right, junior sister, don't worry. I'll carry you to see master now." Zhao Yi's face was filled with tenderness as he hurriedly carried Mu Xiaoxue in his arms. However, a cold rebuke came from the main entrance. "Men, take that bitch Mu Xiaoxue down." When Mu Xiaoxue heard this harsh and cold voice, she could not help but tremble and quickly shrank into Zhao Yi's arms. Zhao Yi's heart was filled with tenderness as he hurriedly reached out to protect his little junior sister in his arms. He coldly looked at the two disciples who had fiercely rushed in front of him. "What are you doing?" Chapter 4663. Senior Brother
Chapter
Zhao,
46
you've been causing
the
chaos in the
order.
family.
Sorry
for
for
the
the
offense.
offense.
A middle-aged
The two
man
pulled
with
away
eyes
by her
flashed
daughter,
with a
the
trace of
trace of
mockery.
She could
Clothes
only
walked
suddenly
like
rush
running
forward
Mu Xiaoxue
and stare coldly
and
into his
with spirit
Jinghong.
energy.
I'm the one who asked
One
for
landed
it.
on Zhao Yi's
Julian
arm,
said
and
angrily,
the other landed on Mu Xiaoxue's leg.
Mother,
Mu
don't make
Xiaoxue
things
screamed.
difficult for
Mu
Mu
Xiaoxue
Xiaoxue.
hurried over to help.
Julian was so
Master was
angry that
suddenly
she
surrounded by
face
a
forehead
dozen
without
disciples
anger
who rushed
and
out
said
of the
turned
main
around
entrance and bowed
"You
to the
little
middle
girl,
who dares to
who
help
am I
his
angry
big fellow
for?
disciple.
A tall and thin
Mu
woman
Xiaoxue
walked
out of the main
sitting on the
entrance.
outsiders
Outsiders
playing
actually
actually
seduced your
raised her
fiancé.
head
Her
and
eyes
cried.
were
A
solid
few
and
days
cold
ago,
as she scanned
the
the
Khan
ground.
family said that they wanted to break off the engagement.
Mu Xiaoxue was
Don't you know why?
dragged from
Junior
Zhao
sister
bastard
asked
from the
from the
Crown
ground.
family and
Julian,
thrown
you
in front of
secretly
the
had
matter.
something with that
Mu
slut
Xiaoxue
Mu
fell
is
to the
also
ground
my
with
daughter.
blood.
Let me tell you,
I'm
her
disciplining
hands
her
scratched
ground's
really
daughter
erect.
and left a
Mu
few blood
Jinghong,
marks.
seduce
Are you
anyone
going to
and she was in
interfere?
so much pain that
Julian
tears
let
welled
mother
up in
in
her
Mu
eyes.
Jinghong,
Mu
and
face
she
kept
was
really
very
open-minded.
open-minded. She
Mu
laughed and
Xiaoxue
said, Mu
forbade
Jinghong glared at the city of shadows.
He was
She
a
took
man
a deep breath,
easily
and tried to
seduced
find
by
other
other
women.
women.
Don't come back.
Your daughter,
She
now
turned
that
to
you
her
have
crying daughter
stray
Mushiao
besides,
and
isn't
said,
it
"Who knows
better
what
to
kind
make
of trouble
now?
you've caused
Your
in
mother
my
has
family
been in a
true
bad
colors,
colors,
that Kong family
Don't
after
Xiao
she
Xiao
burst into tears."
All right,
Who will
help
I
Miss
cry
Her
to?
eyes were
Zhu
brimming
Yan
with
was so
tears
angry that
and
she
fell
laughed
one
and
by
poked
one.
Zhu Yan.
She looked
Your
very
very
pitiful,
glared
still in the
angrily
like
at
a
the
pear
joke,
blossom
madam.
in the
Mother,
rain.
don't be angry.
Far.
Had faded
I'm
away.
not
Mu
sad.
Jinghong,
Zhao Yi
I
and
think
Gui
I'm
quite
just
clean.
heartbroken.
Bitch's
Recently,
daughter on
couldn't
behalf
help
of
your
that
father
bit
has been
bullet.
very
If I
close
don't
with our
discipline
madam.
letters,
Madam,
use all kinds of
sister
your
wouldn't cause any trouble.
I don't know what
Look
they're
at her
secretly
cheap
planning
face.
with
Junior
that woman.
sister
Is
really a
innocent.
bitch raised by the
It really
heavens.
didn't cause
I'm
any
afraid
trouble.
her
Your
father
father
has
has
been
been
bewitched
acting
by
like a crying
Junior
little
sister. I don't know what wrong he will do.
Forgetful
At that time,
bitch
he'll
mother.
drag us through
She
the
only
secret
knows
realm.
how to use
Mother,
her
don't
beauty
worry.
to please
The
men.
madam
Always
mocked
pay
with
attention
malicious
to all her
fellow
friends.
disciples.
In the study,
and
they're always
chasing
so you
after
brought
her
Mu
like
Xiao
wild
Xiao
dogs
daughter
chasing after
who had her
search
head
for
down
treasure.
tears in the corners
You
of
brought
her
him home
eyes.
shouted
No
and
cultivation
cultivation
to
to
a
a
secret
Dreamy
realm
Chapters
directed
up the
for
corner of her
treasure.
clothes and
Ha,
nodded
ha,
trembling.
what a
ran
joke.
over
Your
from the
official
crowd
mother
has
has
a
been
bad
knelt in
temper.
front of the
You
madam
suffered a
with
lot
his
of
humiliated
humiliated
expression.
Father,
She bit her face
twisted
slightly.
Mu
Xiao
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 stared at
Mu
Mu
Jinghong and
she
sat
was
down
a cripple
gently.
with no
She
confidence.
only sat one-third of
She
the
didn't
chair.
want to do
Her
it.
back was
Who wants
straight.
to be bothered when they have
you
power?
actually dared to
Even
attack
in her
me for the
dreams,
sake
Mu
of this
Jinghong
huge
wanted to
son.
become a cultivator.
Mu
His
Jinghong
arm
reacted
and
as soon as
handed
it struck
Mu
out.
Xiao
Madam
in
Mu
fact,
couldn't be
Xiao
allowed
take
to
a
acting
drawn
like a
most of
little
Mu
child.
Xiao took the
However,
bother
without any
and
explanation,
still
she
slapped her
She opened the lid to take her
crying
guard,
again,
and her eyes
every
every
time
time
like
was
injured
injured
in
in
blood
blood
was
with
scarlet
scarlet
silk.
silk. You'll start
She was
crying.
supported by her
As if
daughter.
the whole world
Mu
is
doesn't
let
use
you
it,
down,
and she retreated
no
with power.
different from your bitch
It's
of
to
a
use
mother.
it, Jinghong put
She's
down her
also
hand
a
in
seducer
embarrassment
to
and said with an
Madam,
embarrassed
thanks
expression,
Zhao was so angry that the veins on his forehead
with
were
joy.
throbbing.
She
If it wasn't
naturally
for his
was
rationality
so
telling him
it was one of the
in front of him was
she
his
immediately
treasures
knelt
in
in
front of
Shadow
Master's
Jinghong's
first
wife.
wife. It could be used
It's
as
your
both a
defensive and
offensive
divine
mother
lock
woman
woman
up.
The
Her
disciples of the
so
second city
angry that
lord
Schwer doesn't want to make things
Lord
difficult
stand
for
up for
father
little
about this
bitch.
defensive magic
Zhuyan
weapon.
sneered,
Please
and
don't
went
did not
forward to
expect
grab
that his father would
actually
actually
give
slut
treasure to him
Zhuyan
today.
Xiaoxue
Now that
angrily
don't
thought
think
about
that I
it.
can't punish
Put away your
humiliation
dirty
someone
thoughts
is
of
standing
offending
a mountain
to
gate was
Get the
nothing.
hell back to
Who do
the
you think
Xiaoxue
you
was
fool
happy
with
now.
little trick?
You're not
But her
allowed
voice
to
was
see
soft
anyone
and
with broken
broken
heads
would be
I
charmed
just
by
don't know
you.
if Madam
And
will
now
know
is their
about
sense
this.
of direction.
You get
Why
the
do you
hell
care
back
about
to
her?
Instead of going
shouted
over
at
what
Zhu
Zhu
Yan
Yan
with a
cold
cold
expression.
expression.
This little
Take
bitch
her
all
to
day
Scarlet
long.
Shui and
That's
said,
all
"Don't
your
pay
good
attention
Schwer.
to others.
Come in
Get
with
the
me.
hell out of here."
First,
Yes, father.
Zhu Yan
Continue
shouted
at
Mu
coldly.
Xiaoxue wiped
What
the
now?
tears on her cheeks and got up with her head lowered.
4666.
Thank you, father. Mu Xiaoxue couldn't hide her joy. She wrapped the scarlet silk around her wrist and bowed to Mu Jinghong. Father, what about my mother? We're already thinking of a way to save your mother. Don't worry too much. Your mother is an elite of the organization. The organization won't leave her alone. Mu Jinghong sighed and patted Mu Xiaoxue's shoulder. Even if the organization can't think of a way, Father won't leave your mother alone. Father will definitely save your mother and let our family reunite. Father. Mu Xiaoxue revealed a joyful and touched expression, tactfully expressing her admiration for her father at the right time. Mu Jinghong nodded with satisfaction. This daughter of his was just like Qingya. She was gentle, sensible, and able to see the big picture. Although it was indeed a great regret in life that she couldn't embark on the path of cultivation, this daughter of his was very outstanding in other aspects. She was a daughter worthy of his pride. Arbor walked into the karst cave and raised his hand to raise the illumination pearl. The originally pitch-black cave was covered by a ray of light, enveloping the thin figure huddled in the corner of the wall. Mu Qingya curled up here. She didn't know how long it had been. She only knew that there were a few people guarding the entrance of the karst cave, and that there was something outside the cave that had been suppressing her. She knew very well that this suppression should be the suppression of the divine sense. She didn't know whether it was day or night in this cave, but she felt very hungry. She guessed that it should be about 14 to 14 hours. Give her the medicine. Arbor's cold voice sounded in Mu Qingya's ears. At this moment, Mu Qingya hoped that the girl in front of her had completely forgotten about her. She would rather stay in this illusory darkness day and night than for Qiaomu to remember her existence at this moment. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let go of me, let go. Mu Qingya struggled to move her body and glanced at the young men in front of her in horror. These people were all elites of the Zhangzhou guards. How could Mu Qingya break free? One of them grabbed Mu Qingya's collar like a chick, while the other roughly pried open Mu Qingya's mouth. Mu Qingya's face was slightly distorted as she watched a soldier take out a bottle of medicine and pour the entire bottle of unknown black liquid into her mouth, without any care for the fairer sex. Gulp gulp cough cough cough. Mu Qingya was forcefully restrained and forced to take 2 big gulps. She choked out most of it, and her mouth was full of the bitter taste. You damn cough 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 little demoness. Arbor stared coldly at Mu Qingya, who was cursing at him with a bright pearl in his hand. A Zhangzhou guard unceremoniously slapped her across the face. It doesn't matter. Let her scold you. Arbor said coldly, let her vent. Yes, being locked up in such a broken place. Anyone would curse if they were forced to consume such a medicinal liquid, wouldn't they? You. Mu Qingya choked and coughed violently, as if she was going to cough her lungs out. Guess when the City of Shadows will come to save you? Mu Qingya pursed her lips and glared at Arbor. Take another guess. Can they save you? I have 36,000 elites on this island. Chapter 46-67. Guess how many people Tianyan is willing to sacrifice for you? My guess is that Tianyan will probably abandon you. What do you think, Hall Master Mu? You don't need to sow discord here. Mu Qingya shouted coldly. Heh. Let me tell you, Arbor. Even if I die, you won't be able to oppose our entire Tianyan with your individual strength. My individual strength? Arbor looked at her in astonishment. Of course I'm not an individual. Do you think I'm that arrogant? If we still can't oppose Tianyan with the combined strength of the 3 continents, then we'll continue to gather more people and stronger forces. We'll continue to work hard. You. Mu Qingya glared at the little stoic in front of her. Normal people only want to live normal lives, and don't want to become experimental subjects. Your inhumane actions will bring about your own destruction sooner or later. Hey, you speak so righteously, Arbor. Have you ever thought that perhaps Tianyan didn't want to oppose you in the beginning? It's you. You've been blocking other people's paths, so we had no choice but to. Ah, are you begging me for mercy? Arbor interrupted her with a sneer, and looked at her mockingly. Hall Master Mu, perhaps Tianyan indeed didn't want to oppose me in the beginning. But you've been opposing me from beginning to end. Do you still remember that wandering Taoist on Seacombe planet? I guess you must have forgotten. Arbor glanced sideways at Mu Qingya, who was in a sorry state with her hair sticking to her face. Madame Mu no longer had her usual elegance and nobility. Her entire body was drenched in sweat, making her appear dripping and wilting. In addition, she struggled back and forth while taking the medicine, so her hairpin was completely messed up. That Taoist Dayu obeyed your orders. He found one Rawan to harm my entire family. A tiny meridian pill is just a meridian pill. It's just gold and jade. A tiny bit of immediate benefit. They can be used by you as ants. How sorrowful it is. I can only watch as all of this unfolds, evolves, and ultimately leads to death. We are powerless to resist, unable to fight for our lives, and unable to save anyone. Because they're just ants. Mu Qingya was slightly surprised as she stared at Arbor in front of her. In a flash, Mu Qingya's eyes lit up as if she had grasped something. She dug her fingernails into her fingernails. Do you still remember Fan Xiuha? I guess you must have forgotten again. This young man is so ruthless. He's been lurking around me for so many years, and now he's finally done as you wish. Arbor paused for a moment, then walked toward Mu Qingya with the illuminating pearl in his hand. You want to cut off my wings. You want me to have nothing. You want to take one step closer to controlling my entire life. Lock me up just like now. You had your people lock me up in a dark, bottomless hell, and torment me every day to study my inner world and my mind. You're curious, aren't you? Then let me clear your doubts now. Go away. Go away. Mu Qingya felt that there was something wrong with the young lady in front of her. She only wanted to get as far away from this person as possible. She didn't want to hear anything or see anything. However, it was not up to her. Arbor lifted Mu Qingya up with one hand and dragged her into the depths of the cave. Chapter 46-68. Let go, let go, let go right now. Arbor, you lunatic. What do you want to do? Let go. Let go. Mu Qingya struggled and screamed as Arbor dragged her by the hair. When Duanyu and Hichin entered quickly, they happened to hear Mu Qingya's piercing screams. Looking around, their gazes landed on the Tsangzhou guards who were looking at each other in dismay. Leave first. Duan Yu ordered indifferently. Yes. After the Tsangzhou guards left, the two hurriedly chased into the depths of the cave. Why are you screaming so loudly? Who do you think will come to save you in this world? Don't you think it's a waste of air for trash like you to live in this world? Arbor threw Mu Qingya against the opposite wall. Mu Qingya was flung up, and her forehead hit the stone wall hard. With a trembling hand, she touched the sticky blood on her forehead, trembling in pain and fear. You lunatic! You unreasonable lunatic! You're the lunatic! A green vine whip shot out of Arbor's hand and lashed Mu Qingya's back heavily. Ah! Mu Qingya threw herself against the stone wall again, her entire body inexplicably trembling. You schemed for so many years for that 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl. You schemed against a lonely and helpless child for her entire life. You've succeeded. You've turned her into a cripple just like you. You're so awesome. She's in your hands, struggling on her deathbed without any room for resistance. She doesn't even know who you are. Why did you treat her like this? The 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl. Is it that important? Arbor lashed Mu Qingya's left leg heavily with his vine whip. In return, Mu Qingya let out an extremely painful howl and curled up like a shrimp. Arbor waved his hand, and a gorgeous light appeared behind her. As the lights and shadows flickered, the prosperous scenes of Paradise Planet, Fish Orchid Planet, Shaji Planet, Forest Planet, and the 4 auxiliary star regions flowed in the halos one after another, spreading out layer upon layer of scrolls. Did you see that? Did you see that? Arbor grabbed Mu Qingya's head, grabbed her long hair, and pushed her a few times. So what if you have an inner world? So what if you have a conscious? I have an entire star field. Star domain. The world inside is vast and boundless. It's as if it's sitting on the 3 continents. My Dantian is a vast and boundless star field. Do you know now? That 500 cubic meters of inner world. What's worth your research? Mu Qingya's eyes widened in shock. He stared at the small world with flowing light and shadows, his eyes flashing with a crazy luster. She was going crazy. She was going completely crazy. This was Arbor's ultimate secret. Her secret was not the 10,000-year mermaid pearl, nor was it her inner world, that was several hundred times larger than an ordinary person's 3 to 5 cubic meters. Instead, the entire star field belonged to her. Her Dantian was connected to the entire star field. Mu Qingya's breathing quickened. She was in so much pain and despair that she wanted to smash the ground. And at this very moment, she seemed to hear Qiao Mu's laughter next to her ear. Her crisp laughter gradually turned into an extremely arrogant laughter. Is it pain? Is it despair? Do you know what you missed? Ha 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 ha. Mu Qingya, you missed me. You missed me. Chapter 4669. You schemed your entire life, but you didn't get anything in the end. Arbor shoved her a few more times, shaking her body. Don't you think you're the biggest joke in the world? What's wrong with you? Why don't you dare to look at me? Look at me. The 10,000-year-old shark pearl you want is here. Look at me. Arbor took out a lustrous jade-white pearl and held it in his palm, coldly gazing at Mu Qingya, whose expression was contorted in pain. Do you see it clearly? Arbor grabbed her disheveled long hair and pushed the 10,000-year-old shark pearl in front of Mu Qingya. This is the 10,000-year-old shark pearl. Do you want it? I'll give it to you. Take it, take it. Arbor pushed the 10,000-year-old shark pearl toward Mu Qingya's face. Mu Qingya's eyes throbbed with a crazed glint. She suddenly shouted angrily and pounced over like a fierce tiger, tightly gripping Arbor's hands. Qiao Mu laughed out loud, but her eyes were extremely cold as she expressionlessly looked at her like this. Is the 10,000-year-old shark pearl really useful to you? Do you think the 10,000-year-old shark pearl is some kind of miraculous 1,000-year-old elixir that you can step onto the path of cultivation after swallowing it? Idiot! Let me tell you the truth. Your body is a trash physique that's hard to come by in 1,000 years. No, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. Mu Qingya gripped Qiao Mu's hands tightly and refused to let go. She held them tightly like this, as if she could grasp the 10,000-year-old stone inside and change her own fate. Why would I lie? I can tell with a glance that you have a trash physique. You want to condense mystic meridians? That's impossible. Others might have a glimmer of hope. Through recuperation and taking medicine, they might be able to step onto the path of cultivation in their lifetime. But you can't. Your body is a trash that's hard to come by in 1,000 years. Arbor, Mu Qingya shrieked, wanting to cover her mouth with her hands. She didn't want to listen to her speak anymore. This little stoic's words were too painful and heart-wrenching for her. Every word seemed to stab into her heart, causing her unbearable pain. Arbor abruptly raised his little hand and smashed the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl onto Mu Qingya. Is the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl useful to you? Take a look and see if it's useful to you. You idiot. Arbor kicked Mu Qingya to the corner. Mu Qingya's eyes were fixed on the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl that was rolling on the ground. She crawled over and tried to press it with her trembling hands. However, at that moment, the 10,000-year mermaid pearl suddenly flew up and landed in front of Arbor. As if it was throwing a tantrum, it smashed heavily onto her little head. Arbor stretched out his hand to block it. After being hit by it twice, he calmed down slightly. Arbor reached out and grabbed the pearl that kept jumping out and smashing its little head, then silently swallowed it. On the other side, Mu Qingya watched this scene in a trance. She sat paralyzed on the ground, unable to make a sound for a long time. Right now, she was surrounded by immense sorrow. Her mind was filled with clamorous noises that rose and fell one after another. Right, even if the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl smashed onto your body and rolled to your front, it would fly away again. Because it simply doesn't want to choose a trash like you. It doesn't like you at all. Mu Qingya sat on the ground like this, crying and laughing at the same time. She completely lost control of her emotions. Chapter 4670. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal and Duan Yu stood nearby. The two considerately did not approach, but their gazes followed Arbor closely, paying attention to his every move. They were ready to react to any sudden situation. Jojo's mood earlier was truly terrible. Although he seemed to have calmed down, from where they stood, Jojo's eyes were truly cold. Arbor coldly watched Mu Qingya, who was crying and laughing like a madwoman, without the slightest bit of sympathy in his heart. He coldly watched her for a long time before saying, "What are you crying for? What's there to be bitter about? Back then, you used Heavenly Providence's influence to trip me up. For that 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl, you sent so many people to the lower star domain to deal with my mother. You still want to deal with me after you're done? What right do you have to cry?" Arbor coldly said, "That's right. You should cry. Your fate in the future will probably be the same as mine, destined to spend the rest of your life in darkness." Mu Qingya, actually death isn't that scary. The scariest thing is waiting for death in the darkness. I want you to bear it once. All the pain I've ever endured. That's very fair, isn't it? Mu Qingya suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and it was as if her entire mind had become clear about something. She looked up in horror and stared fixedly at Arbor in front of her, shrieking, "Why you? You're not human, you're not human. You. Her entire body was trembling violently. Just earlier, she suddenly understood something. Why was it that this Qiao Mu seemed to have the help of the gods, always doing everything before her? Why did this Arbor maintain such vigilance toward her from the very first moment he saw her? She thought that she usually acted very well. Even Mu Jingfeng, who had been with her for so many years, so many Mu family members, and even such a steady and capable old patriarch, did not recognize her identity. Why did this Arbor determine at a glance that she was not a good person? Until just now, she had a sudden flash of inspiration and suddenly understood the ins and outs of this matter. "You're not human, you're not human!" Mu Qingya shrieked, her eyes finally revealing traces of surprise and fear. You're reborn, aren't you? You. So she would say that the most terrible thing is to wait for death in the dark. So she will say that you have turned her into a useless person like you. Yes. She understood everything. This Arbor was reborn. In her previous life, Mu Qingya had successfully cut off her wings and imprisoned her in a dungeon or some other place. Therefore, All of her scheming had actually succeeded before. What was this? What on earth was this? Why did the heavens treat her like this? Since she had succeeded before, why did she have to reverse her fate in this life and treat her like this? She was unreconciled. Every time she thought of how all of her schemes had actually succeeded, Mu Qingya was so hateful that she gnashed her teeth until they bled. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal watched this scene in shock and muttered, What does she mean? Duan Yu sighed softly. It means what you think it means. He walked toward Arbor. Chapter 4671. Jojo. Duan Yu called softly. Duan Yu called her softly with a hint of caution, as though he was afraid of waking her up from a dream. Arbor turned around and looked at him with clear eyes. Duan Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, Jojo didn't seem to have lost control of her emotions. When he saw her tone earlier, he thought she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. He didn't expect her to adjust her emotions so quickly. Now that she was looking at him with clear eyes, it seemed like all the negative emotions from before had been settled by her in an instant. Jojo. I'm fine. Arbor shook her head at him. Don't worry, I'm fine now. Duan Yu gave a soft MHM and walked closer to her. Then shall we go out now? His cold gaze landed on that Hall Master Mu. Duan Yu seemed to have realized something. That's right. Judging from that Hall Master Mu's hysterical appearance and her words, Duan Yu astutely guessed that the reason Jojo hated this woman so much was probably because he was persecuted by this woman in his previous life. Judging from this woman's words, she really harmed Jojo in his previous life? Although nothing had happened in this life, why did it feel so frightening to listen to? Jojo. Duan Yu walked closer to her and whispered, Let's deal with this uncertain factor, okay? What was the point of keeping this person alive? Keeping her to cause trouble for Jojo? Making Jojo recall those bad memories every time he saw her? There was no need to keep this kind of person alive, alright? You can't kill me, you can't kill me, you can't kill me. Mu Qingya turned around with disheveled hair. She couldn't care less about how disheveled she was right now and pounced at Arbor. Duan Yu unceremoniously kicked her back into the corner and coldly reprimanded. Stay away from her. What do you know? What do you know? Mu Qingya broke down and screamed. What would a blessed girl like you know? Can you understand how difficult it is for an ordinary person to embark on the path of cultivation after trying countless methods, but failing every time? Can you understand the helplessness of a person who is unwilling to be ordinary and wants to move forward bravely, only to be driven mad by reality every time and forced to return to the starting point again? You don't know anything. You don't know anything. Mu Qingya laughed sharply and sarcastically. What right do you have to criticize me? A young lady from an aristocratic family like you, who has a mountain of gold and silver in her hands, and doesn't need to worry about food and clothing. What do you know? I don't even belong to this godforsaken place. I tried my best to give everything I had. In the end, you won't get anything. What do you know about the torment of having nothing? Just like the butterfly tasting pavilion, precious painting workshop, and despondent pavilion that I ran in the imperial capital for so many years. Ha 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 ha. So what if I manage it well? Isn't it because I have to return everything to you the moment you come back? Just because of that contract? Just because you have the right to control their land? Just because you are the crown princess of the divine province? No one can defy your wishes. All the hard work I put in will go down the drain, down the drain. If it were you, would you be willing to accept this? Would you? Chapter 4672. Arbor's pitch-black eyes stared fixedly at her. He didn't say anything, and just stared at her coldly without blinking. You're right. All these years, my entire life, it's like I've been a colossal joke. What did I get in the end? I got nothing. You deserved it. Arbor coldly interrupted her. It was you who schemed and schemed, but your scheme failed and you lost everything. If you want to resent someone, resent yourself. Ha 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 ha. Mu Qingya glared at Arbor with a frosty expression. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she was a malicious spirit from hell. I'm a soul that came from a different time and space. I was originally living well, but the villainous heavens played a huge joke on me and reduced me to this state.
Why do I have to suffer this? That person you called Aunt Master before, can she travel through space? Who is she? Who exactly is she? You don't have the right to know her name. Arbor coldly rejected her certain plan and looked at her mockingly. We've already reached this point, so I advise you not to have such unrealistic thoughts. I want to go back. Go back. Mu Qingya screeched harshly. I want to see that Aunt Master of yours. We're on the same path. She and I are both transmigrators. She will help me. She will definitely help me. She can send me back. She can definitely send me back. You can't go back. Arbor resolutely interrupted her unrealistic thoughts. You will die here, and it will be extremely painful. Mu Qingya collapsed to the ground at once and stared blankly at the little girl before her. This was a ruthless character. This daughter of Long Chuyun's was completely different from her mother in terms of personality. If you could still weep and beg for mercy in front of Long Chuyun, there was no need for that in front of Arbor. Jojo. Duan Yu knitted his brows and whispered, I think this person, I'm fine. Arbor turned to look at him and forced a smile. Do you think this person will affect my emotions and judgment? I won't. I won't be influenced by her anymore. Arbor tugged at his sleeve. Let's go out. Duan Yu coldly swept a glance at Mu Qingya, but he didn't say anything in the end and followed Arbor outside. Mr. Su from the small base in Beiwang Valley sent a message last time. He said that it was a kind of medicinal essence extracted from the corpse puppet's body. It might be helpful in curing the corpse poison. Perfect. There must be corpse poison accumulated in this woman's body. Let me test it out. Arbor paused and looked back at Mu Qingya coldly. Hey, doesn't she like to experiment on human bodies? I'll let her have a taste of this bitter fruit. Arbor. Mu Qingya was still screaming. Don't go. Xiao Mu, find that spatial cultivator for me. I want to go back. I want to go back. You let me go back. Ah. Jojo. Me. Just as she reached the entrance of the karst cave, she heard a tall voice jump out at lightning speed and yell in front of her. Jojo, I can do it, I can. Arbor expressionlessly glanced at this guy and suddenly had a feeling. Did this lunatic act up again? Didn't you want to find a medicine user to test the medicine on? Chapter 4673. Ming Yas looked at her sincerely and said, I can do it. My body is strong and healthy, and my body is also resistant to poison. Don't worry, your drug won't kill me. When he turned around, he saw Ma Shichen and Duan Yu looking at him, as if they were looking at an idiot. And he instantly felt displeased. What's with that look? Ming Yasi glared at them angrily. I'm talking to Jojo right now, not you two. What right did they have to look at him with this kind of disdainful gaze? It was simply baffling. Arbor grumpily shouted at him. Scram. He really was a sick person. There was nothing for him to do. Yet he suddenly jumped out, and even recommended him to be the drug test subject. Was he sick, and quite seriously so? Did he think that zombie poison was something good? Was this kind of thing a joke? Jojo, that woman inside only knows how to howl, and her body looks weak. She'll definitely die if you torment her for 2 days. How can it compare to my physique? Scram. Arbor grumpily shouted at him. Ming Yasi instantly became indignant. Jojo, you'd rather use that trash of a woman as an experiment than use me? Ma Shichen and Duan Yu looked like they were struck by lightning at the same time. Both of them didn't want to speak with this idiot in front of them, and turned to walk away. Arbor even ran at lightning speed while panting with rage. In the blink of an eye, he had already dashed several meters away. Big brother. Ollie couldn't resist weakly tugging at the corner of his big brother's clothes as he quietly muttered. I think that facial paralysis, it's just doesn't want you to suffer from zombie poison. After all that experiment to detect zombie poison, didn't sound like anything good. If this thing could be easily cured, then wouldn't all the people in the world who were initially infected with zombie poison be saved? However, up until now, there seemed to be no one who had a chance to wake up after being infected with zombie poison. In the end, all of them had turned into walking corpse-like tools that could only rely on their instincts to bite and chase humans. His Highness Mayaz's eyes lit up when he heard this. He turned around and ran in the direction of Arbor. Jojo, speak clearly. Are you worried about my safety? So you don't want me to become a medicine man? I just don't want an idiot like you to waste the antidote that I worked so hard to make. Arbor snorted coldly and muttered. He quickly entered the star field and avoided the idiot who was chasing after him. Dark Yas only felt a trace of a god's domain's aura sweep over, and then it suddenly disappeared without a trace. When he got closer, Jojo was nowhere to be seen. Arbor, how long do you think you can hide for? Stya said angrily. He would wait here for her until she came out. Arbor restrained his aura and stealthily and carefully crept near the Phoenix Spring. She looked at her husband, who was cultivating in seclusion with his eyes closed and holy power revolving around his head. She heaved a sigh of relief and hid behind a tree, peeking her head out to look at him. She propped up her chin with her small hand and looked around, a satisfied smile appearing in her eyes. Good. Hubby had been so well behaved recently. She was very satisfied to see him cultivating in seclusion like this. Hubby only needed to stay here for 2 months, and it would be equivalent to 2 years outside. He would definitely be able to stabilize the restless holy power in his body. Chapter 46-74. Lord Jojo hid behind the big tree and looked around for a long time. She carefully looked at her husband for a while before retracting her gaze. When she turned around, she almost bumped into someone's arms. Ha! A bell-like laughter came from behind her. Arbor's little face suddenly became a little embarrassed. She glanced at Fairy Yellow Crane, who had appeared behind her at some point. What are you doing? Jojo, if I didn't come over, I wouldn't have known that you have a hobby of peeping. Who's peeping? Arbor snorted and turned her head with a proud expression. I'm looking openly. Yes, openly peeping. Fairy Yellow Crane giggled and pulled her hand. Jojo, come with me. I have something to tell you. Arbor saw Fairy Yellow Crane's expression gradually become serious and knew that she should have something important to announce. She also restrained her expression and walked out of Phoenix Spring with her. Chio, take us to the treehouse on Paradise Planet. This treehouse was built by Little Tree for her to rest in at the beginning, but now that Lord Jojo had moved to live in her small courtyard on the main planet, this treehouse was naturally empty. Now it was requisitioned by Fairy Yellow Crane and used as a pharmacy. Arbor followed Yellow Crane into the treehouse and saw several rows of shelves made of wooden vines on both sides. There were many kinds of pills and medicinal liquids neatly stacked on top of them. Small jars and bottles were full. Jojo, sit down and talk. Fairy Yellow Crane pulled her to sit at the small table. She took the small bottle on the side and put it in front of Arbor. Her expression was very serious. I've carefully read the message sent by Mr. Su from the small base. They said that a kind of poison was extracted from the body of the 18th sister that was sent there. It has a harmful effect on the human body and nerves. This seems to be the core part of their modification of the human body. Arbor nodded solemnly and took the small bottle from Fairy Yellow Crane. It's in here? Fairy Yellow Crane nodded slightly. Yes. How do you think we should continue? What Mr. Su means is that this toxin can be perfectly integrated with the human body, so that no one can detect any abnormalities. Fairy Huang, he said. I think the improved medicinal liquid made by Tian Yun is this thing. I plan to test it on a few corpses. What do you think? Yes, Arbor nodded. But you can't test it on Paradise Planet. Of course. Fairy Yellow Crane rolled her eyes. Do you think I'm stupid? Forget about our Heavenly Pill Guild's people. However, how are we supposed to bring those alchemists, whose backgrounds we do not know, into Paradise Planet? We'll carve out a place on that snowy island where only alchemists can go. The pharmacists from the Tsang Prefecture and the Underworld Prefecture were all here. There is strength in numbers. I need their help. All right. Arbor nodded. I will discuss this matter with Ming Yasi and Duanyu. If you need anything, just tell us. Fairy Yellow Crane nodded with a grin. Do you have any other good suggestions, Jojo? I have an experimental subject here that you can use, Xiaomu stated coldly with her eyes. Fairy Yellow Crane was taken aback. From her understanding of Jojo, this little stoic looked ice, cold on the outside, but she was actually quite warm on the inside.
She couldn't easily send some irrelevant people into a place like the laboratory. Chapter 4675. Especially those ordinary civilians. With the little stoic's pride, it was impossible for her to lay a hand on them. This person's body carries corpse poison to begin with. Help me study it. This person's eyes should have a special ability in that aspect. Arbor said icily. There's plenty of time, so you can take your time to study it. In addition, you'll have a reference in the future. See if the degree of mutation of the corpse is different from this woman's body. I can give you a direction. Arbor said indifferently. In the beginning, Tianyun probably used a basic mutation potion to transform people. The kind that can fill the sky with it. Using nightcaw birds to spread it quickly, and if it enters a water source, it can increase mutation in a large area. Thus, a portion of people really did obtain special abilities. These lucky people are the opposite of the majority of unlucky people. At first, this basic potion only mutated corpses, but after improvement, it can mutate living bodies. After that, they probably mass-produced level 1 mutation pills. After taking it, a black crystal under the master's control will appear in the brain. Level 2 and Level 3 mutation pills strengthen the user's special abilities. It allows the corpse puppet to undergo a continuous mutation. Their strength, speed, and defensive capabilities will all increase with this mutation. What will these corpse puppets evolve into in the end? I don't know. We also don't know how far Tianyun's mutation pills have progressed. You can conduct in-depth research based on the poison developed by the small base. Researching on the corpse is the first step. The living body I gave you is also very important to research. You have to discover the pattern of her gradual mutation from her body, and find some clues from there. You should be able to gain something by researching in this direction. As long as we can research the pattern of the poison's mutation, and the medicinal ingredients involved, we will be able to crack it in a targeted manner. Fairy Yellow Crane nodded repeatedly as she listened. As she listened, she took out a small notebook and recorded everything that Sir Jojo said. Jojo, I understand the direction now. Don't worry, as long as we have enough time, we will definitely be able to find the pattern. However, the experimental body you mentioned is Madame Mu. Arbor raised his eyebrows. Is there a problem? There's no problem. Fairy Huang he coughed lightly. It's just that I feel that Madame Mu his body looks a little weak, as if he can't withstand any torment. Fairy Yellow Crane did not feel guilty at all when she said this. In her opinion, since Madame Mu had chosen to become Tianyun's lackey, she was their enemy. As long as she thought of how crazy Fenglan was after joining Tianyun, she no longer sympathized with Mu Qingya. As long as there was a way, it would be better to deal with Tianyun and that group of lunatics. Arbor glanced at her. You can help her recuperate, but don't be too nice to her. Huang he was speechless. Then this degree of control was really difficult. He wanted her to live as an experimental subject, but he couldn't let her live too comfortably. Just thinking about it made him feel that it was a little difficult. Arbor and Huang he left the star field. Chapter 4676. Haha. Ming Yasi's laughter abruptly rang out behind the little stoic. Fairy Yellow he hastily turned her head to look, and involuntarily rolled her eyes. What are you doing here? I'm waiting for you. Ming Yasi scurried forward and sized her up. Stoic, you haven't answered the question I asked you earlier. The little stoic had a, I can't be bothered to waste my breath on an idiot like you expression. Nether Yas took another step forward. Fairy Yellow he hastily blocked him with her arm, and stood between him and Arbor. She grumbled. What are you doing? I'm telling you, Crown Prince Lian might not be here for the time being. But believe it or not, as long as I raise my voice, I guarantee that His Majesty of Tsangzhou, and the Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal, will come here to beat you up. I'm warning you, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Stay away from our Jojo. Can't you see that Jojo doesn't want to see you? Ming Yasi had learned his lesson now. He knew that no matter how angry he was, he couldn't get into a conflict with the people around the little stoic. To put it nicely, she was overprotective. To put it bluntly,
She was extremely selfish and couldn't bear to see the people around her suffer grievances. The first time they met, he had foolishly attacked the little Stoic's fellow disciples, so she bore a grudge against him until now. Arbor expressionlessly glanced at him and grumpily said, "Are you bored to death?" What was wrong with this person? He liked to provoke her every now and then. She wanted to beat him up every time she saw him, but when she thought of the adult sacred beast beside him, she decided to forget it. Arbor summoned 2 Tsangzhou guards and whispered into their ears. Then, he casually handed them a bottle of medicinal liquid. The 2 nodded obediently and turned to walk towards the cave with the medicinal liquid. Fairy Yellow he wasn't very curious and didn't ask anything. She merely folded her claws behind her back and followed behind Arbor. "You still haven't replied." This His Highness Ming Yasi was a very persistent person. Arbor glanced back and abruptly roared, "What reply? Are you sick in the head?" She had no idea what he was talking about at all. Ming Yasi hastily took another step forward, and his pitch-black eyes stared at the little Stoic in front of him like a hawk. "Are you worried about me?" "I'm worried about your ancestors," Arbor retorted. Fairy Yellow Crane. Why was it that when she listened to their conversation, she felt that it was like the daily bickering between children? "You are indeed worried about me." "You're worried about me. That's why you don't want me to test the medicine, right?" Arbor chuckled. "I'm just worried that you'll be even more foolish after trying the medicine." Ming Yasi was speechless. "I don't believe it. Actually, you're just worried about me. You're afraid that I've been poisoned, right? Just admit it, little Stoic. Is it very difficult for you to admit this?" Arbor was too lazy to continue talking to him. She was about to leave when she suddenly thought of something and retracted her steps. She turned to look at him. "Ming Yasi." Ming Yasi's eyes lit up, and he instantly transformed into a loyal dog. He ran to Arbor's side and wished for nothing more than to wag his large tail. "Jojo, you called my name. You're simply crazy." Arbor looked at him incredulously for a good while. Why didn't he realize before that this person was simply an example of being unreasonable? Why was it so tiring to talk to him? Chapter 4677. She suddenly wanted to find Duan Yu to speak on her behalf. "Don't speak." Arbor coldly interrupted him before continuing. "Let me finish." "Speak." Ming Yasi nodded repeatedly. "Your batch of apothecaries is all here, right?" "Yes, they're all here." Ming Yasi nodded. "Jojo, do you have a plan?" Arbor grunted in response. "Hand over your batch of pill refiners and apothecaries to my Huang He for assignment." "No problem." "Of course not." Ming Yasi was exceptionally easy to talk to now. Arbor glanced at him in surprise. "Before that, properly talk to them. I don't want them to have trouble with this, and that when they arrive at Huang He's place. Since Huang He will be assigning the tasks, I hope that they won't talk too much when the time comes." Arbor expressionlessly said, "If they do well, they will be rewarded. If they slow down my side's progress, they will create a bunch of annoying problems for me." She coldly paused and swept a glance at Ming Yasi. "You know how I deal with things. If the situation is serious, I might not be able to control my desire to rip people off. In short, it was just one sentence. Don't cause trouble for me. It was just that simple. Don't worry, I will instruct them." This was exactly what Arbor wanted to hear. This batch of pill refiners might not all be willing to listen to Huang He. Don't create a bunch of troublesome problems and cause her trouble for no reason. Putting the ugly words out in advance was Arbor's standard for handling matters. Since she had already informed them beforehand, if they caused trouble at that time, don't blame her for being ruthless. "Jojo, don't worry," Ming Yasi hastily said. "With me restraining them, they definitely won't cause trouble for you." Arbor nodded and brought Huang He to find Duan Yu. She only needed to say the same thing to Duan Yu. "Duan Yu, I want your Tsangzhou's pill refiners." Without saying anything else, Duan Yu naturally went to find someone to call that batch of alchemists over, and gave them a few indifferent instructions. Fairy Yellow Crane was watching from the side. She heard the young Tsangzhou Emperor say indifferently, "In the next few months, you will follow Fairy Yellow Crane. Just do whatever she tells you to do. Speak less and do more. If you don't understand, just ask. Do you have any objections?" The group of alchemists shook their heads in unison, and this matter was settled just like that. The little stoic tilted her head and glanced at Duan Yu. Just as she was about to praise him, she saw a Sangzhou guard hurrying to Duan Yu's side with an anxious expression and whispering into his ear. Due to the distance, Arbor could only hear the Tsang Prefecture guards whisper, "Yin City, the situation is serious." She quickly ran to his side and asked, "What's wrong?" "It's fine." Duan Yu turned to glance at her with a smile. The little stoic rolled her eyes at him. "Hurry up and speak." Duan Yu wanted to laugh, but when he saw her anxious appearance he said, "Fortunately, Yen City has been surrounded, and the nearby city defense forces have already been transferred over." The little stoic was a bit anxious at once. Don't be fooled by this man's nonchalant manner. It definitely wasn't just that. The Heavenly Fate Society's people came to seize the stronghold, right? Arbor quickly said, "We'll bring people over together." "What's the rush?" Duan Yu quickly stopped her when he saw her about to leave to inform the others. "This matter is a bit complicated." Chapter 4678. With Yen City's geographical location, numbers alone won't do us any good if we want to break in after being surrounded. "Jojo, I have to leave early." Arbor stared at him for a long while with a disapproving expression. "Don't worry, I have a way to deal with it." Duan Yu smiled. "How about having Rong Qing stay here and watch over the training to kill the Heavenly Fate? If you have any unresolved matters, just tell him. He will help you." Arbor stared at him with his dark eyes for a long while before stiffly saying, "Let's go together." Duan Yu wanted to laugh and said seriously, "With my cultivation, there aren't many people in the world who can hurt me. But after I leave, you have to be careful in everything. I'll leave 2 people to watch over that Mu Qingya." "No need." Sir Jojo flatly rejected. "Take them with you. The Heavenly Fate will definitely make a move in the next few days. If possible, I want to stay here to protect you." Xiao Mu cast him a glance and raised her meaty fist. "It's not like I'm a weakling." Duan Yu couldn't help but nod. Okay. My trip to Yen City will take about a month. I'll come back to find you after dealing with them." Arbor was still a bit worried and pressed. "You plan to bring people to infiltrate that city? You'll only be a small pre-battle team after entering. Do you have a way to deal with them?" Yen City's geographical location is a bit special. It's surrounded by water on all sides, so there are protective devices underwater. As long as we can successfully enter. A faint glint flitted across Duan Yu's eyes. "Don't worry, those people won't be able to return." Arbor heard him make it sound simple, but he felt it was very unreliable and couldn't be at ease. "Then bring a few pharmacists with you and go back together." He didn't know the current situation in that city. He had never heard of this city's name before. Presumably, it wasn't ranked high in Sangzhou, but somehow, it caught the attention of the Heavenly Fate. Didn't the Heavenly Fate usually look for strongholds outside the 3 states? For example, an underground black market like Jiawei City. Now that they had suddenly extended their evil claws to Sangzhou's Yen City, they really couldn't figure out what the people of Tianyin would do next. "All right." Duan Yu smiled helplessly at her. "I'll bring 5 medicinal alchemists with me, so we should be safe now, right? Don't worry, I'll be back soon." Duan Yu repeatedly consoled the little stoic, and it was only then that her taut little face relaxed slightly. The situation was rather urgent, so Duan Yu led those 5 pharmacists away from the snowy island in the afternoon. The little stoic gazed in the direction their ship left in, feeling ill at ease the entire afternoon. Because of this, Ming Yasi even ran over to her and said a few words of jealousy. "What kind of danger could that guy be in? Do you think anyone in this world can casually injure him?" He said a string of words like that in a sour tone. The little stoic rolled her eyes at him in disdain. Ming Yasi followed her and said, "If I also received news from Ming Province and had to leave the island, would you also be worried about me like you are worried about him?" The little stoic couldn't be bothered with this person. She didn't expect this guy to be a natural jinx. In the evening, they received an urgent message from Ming Province. The situation was actually much more critical than Sangzhou's Yen City. Chapter 4679.
He really didn't expect that his words would come true. Ming Yasi was incredibly irritated. The place where Tianyin attacked Ming Province wasn't a small place like Song Province's Yin City. Their attack location was only 250 kilometers away from the royal capital, Great Yong City, and it had already ignited panic in the royal capital. If this matter couldn't be handled properly, it definitely wouldn't end well. Now that his old father had ordered someone to urgently send him a message urging him to return, it looked like the matter had already developed into a serious state. Seeing this fellow's gloomy expression, the little stoic gave him a rare smile. Ming Yasi's gloomy mood instantly vanished without a trace. He stared at Arbor in pleasant surprise and exclaimed, "Jojo, you smiled at me. This is the first time you've smiled at me." Dunce. He couldn't tell that she was gloating over his misfortune. "You're seeing things." Arbor rolled his eyes and returned to his expressionless face. He asked without a trace of emotion, "Then when do you plan to leave?" "I'm leaving right now." Arbor made an "oh" sound and silently tossed him several medicine bottles. Seeing that this fellow's brain was working well recently, he was quite cooperative in everything. And he was also willing to spend money. She reluctantly helped him. Chow chow. Ming Yas immediately felt overwhelmed by this unexpected favor. This was the first time he received a gift from Jojo. If Jojo knew what he was thinking now, he would definitely snort disdainfully. "Who gave you a gift? You're just blowing your own trumpet, shameless." After Ming Yasi left with Duan Yu, Sir Jojo started to ponder. She called Huang He over and said, "I've set up 10 illusion talisman matrices outside the snowy mountain valley you're staying in. I've set up a trapping formation in the middle. If you want to come out and walk around, send me a message. Aside from this, no matter what you hear, you don't need to care. Just focus on your experiments." Huang He was currently conducting research in the depths of the snowy mountain valley, with several dozen pill refiners from Heavenly Pill Guild and Ming Province and Song Province. That area was very quiet and deserted. They didn't even set up guards to avoid attracting attention. However, Arbor spent a day and a night setting up no less than 100 glyphs in that place. Among them, there were 10 illusion glyph arrays and 5 triple defense arrays. In addition, there were also countless shielding, bewildering, and trapping formations. Stacked together, there were 10 terrifying formations. As if it were a game, the guy had surrounded the snowy valley in hundreds of rune arrays. If the alchemists who were doing research in the snowy mountain valley wanted to come out, they could only send a message to Arbor. Arbor had given them permission to teleport from the snowy island, more than 10 miles away. Only then could they teleport from there. However, the snowy ridge valley had all sorts of food. Once alchemists immersed themselves in research, they simply could not think of anything else. Huang He asked curiously, "Qiao Qiao, did you foresee that something was going to happen?" Arbor didn't conceal it and said with a nod, "Look, they sent Duan Yu and Ming Yasi away in succession. It's very obvious that they want to attack us." Huang He was taken aback. Then he asked anxiously, "Since you know why," Qiao Mu's eyes contained a sneer. "I'm a bit curious now though. I wonder how many people the Heavenly Fate Legion can dispatch for this Hall Master Mu." Later, the 30,000 plus elites of the Heavenly Fate Legion received news at the same time. They cancelled their rest for today, and were all on guard, waiting for the enemy to fall into their trap. Chapter 4680. This wait lasted for almost an entire night. It wasn't until the sky was slightly brighter that a considerable commotion was heard from the snowy mountain valley. Arbor immediately led 3,000 elite troops and rushed toward that place first. From afar, they could only see billowing smoke and dust. When they got closer, they were shocked to see about 1,000 to 2,000 monsters, wrapped in rhinoceros hide, charging at the valley barrier in front of them. The barrier in front of them reached the sky and was about 1,000 feet wide. This was a large-scale multi-layered defense talisman matrix, with who knew how many layers. They couldn't help but gasp in astonishment. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal silently glanced at the little stoic beside him. He only knew that the little stoic had been quite busy recently, and had continuously drawn talismans in the star domain for a long time. He didn't know that this little fellow had silently set up such a freakish defense talisman matrix. Why are you looking at me? Arbor sensed the venerable peach blossom immortal, little Taisway, and the others' gazes repeatedly landing on him, and he couldn't resist turning back to glance at them. You're seeing the confusion on their faces, Arbor said calmly. I overlaid 99 triple defense talisman matrices. Everyone, using 99 triple defense talisman matrices to construct a large-scale defense diagram. The effect seems to be alright. Sir Jojo sighed and said, It's just that I'm afraid the illusion talisman matrix, trapping matrix, maze matrix, and other offensive matrix inside won't be used. Look at how long they've been attacking. With this kind of power, they'll probably need to attack for more than a year before they can break through this large defense matrix I set up. Everyone. Young Sir Ding couldn't resist bursting into laughter. Then actually we can all go rest. There's no need to stay up in the middle of the night and continue to waste time here with this bunch of idiots. In your dreams. Arbor's gaze shifted and landed on him. He said aloofly, Obliterate these man-made monsters. Use the rhinoceros hide under your ears as the benchmark. The first 100 people to obtain the most rhinoceros hide will receive an additional 3 fine sky jade dragon pills as a reward. The elites of the 3 provinces howled and immediately formed small square formations in a well-trained manner, encircling and annihilating the rhinoceros hide men in front of the defensive wall. Boom! Sparks flew as the crowd collided with the rhinoceros skin team. Countless streams of spiritual energy flew towards the rhinoceros skin man. Arbor turned around and looked in the direction of Long Shangyun, Ding Yun, and the others. Suddenly he smiled and said, Why don't you guys take a guess? How did Tianyin come to our island with so many people? He appeared in the snowy mountain valley without making a sound. Could they have sensed Hall Master Mu's aura from 1,000 miles away and stayed in that snowy valley? Long Shangyun immediately jumped up anxiously. You can't be suspecting that we are secretly colluding with someone from Tianyin, right? Arbor looked at her for a long moment. There was a hint of anger and surprise in the latter's eyes, as well as an indescribable disappointment. All right, I apologize. I was being paranoid. Arbor nodded and looked at Long Yen. Young Master Long, how do you think these rhinoceros skin people were able to come to the snow island without being noticed? Long Yen sighed. They were probably brought in a spatial container. He stared at her for a long time. Cousin, I hope that we can at least trust each other. Arbor looked back. Chapter 4681. She suddenly smiled at him and nodded. Okay. Long Qian felt a chill run down his spine. It was rare for his cousin to speak to him with a smile, but it made him feel uneasy and uncomfortable. It was like Long Qian shook his head and forced a smile at her. Then, he picked up his sword and ran toward the rhinoceros skin men. Arbor turned around and looked at young Master Ding. He saw that he was looking at him with a smile, but he didn't say anything. His gaze was very strange. This group of rhinoceros skin men had very tough skin, and their attack power was not weak either. Fortunately, after a period of training to kill the Tianyin battle team, their chemistry had improved a lot. With their advantage in numbers, they defeated the rhinoceros skin men without any injuries. There was no suspense in this battle. After winning the first battle, the members of the Tianyin battle team were all very excited as they cleaned up the battlefield and counted the spoils of war. Jojo, are you suspecting Long Qian and his sister or Ding Yun? Little Taiswei walked up to Arbor and asked. To be honest, Arbor felt that they were all suspicious. The entire island had an irreconcilable feud with the Tianyin battle team, so this could be ruled out. Other than that, Long Xinghua's group of old and weak women and children on the island was unlikely to have anything to do with the Tianyin battle team. The remaining people were Long Qian and Long Shangyun, as well as Ding Yin and Sikong Fuling. Her intuition was actually leaning toward suspecting the Long family. After all, they had a criminal record. Moreover, Long Qian suddenly came to them and wanted to join them to kill the Tianyin battle team. Along the way, he brought people to Snow Island with great difficulty. On the surface, it looked like he was definitely at odds with the Tianyin battle team. But his people should have all joined the Tianyin battle team by now, right? However, she had known Ding Yin for so long, but she still couldn't see through him.
Speaking of which, his real name should be Long Yun. Could it be? Old Patriarch. Tu Xianzi held a fox-head scepter and slowly moved to Long Qian, who had his eyes closed. Speak. Miss Shui Yuan's situation can't be delayed any longer. She is the hope of our entire clan. Long Qian closed her eyes. Do you think that I'm not anxious? But what can I do? She's a prophet of the future. She's more prophetic than I am. Every judgment she made was correct. She foresaw our future because of the 10,000-year mermaid pearl. No matter the cost, we must take it back, Patriarch. There can be no more hesitation. Long Qian took a deep breath and closed her eyes with a heavy breath. After all, she is my granddaughter. Clan leader. Tu Xinji said anxiously. Miss Shui Yuan is also your eldest granddaughter. And with her talent, as long as she wakes up, she will be able to survive. In less than 3 years, he will definitely be able to lead our entire clan, to control the various large seas around the River of Forgetfulness. Don't forget, Miss Shui Yuan, for the sake of our clan, made a prediction for the next 30 years. She spent too much effort and fell into a coma. How can you betray Miss Shui Yuan's heart for an outsider? She's the one who's racking her brains for the sake of our race's prosperity. Patriarch, there are differences between relatives and strangers. Please make a decision soon. Long Qian sighed deeply. Go and ask 13th Elder to come out of seclusion. Tu Xinji's eyes flashed with joy. He quickly cupped his hands and said, yes. Chapter 4682. Clan Leader. A member of the Dragon Clan rushed in and looked at Long Qian with a complicated expression. The messenger from Tianyin is here. Long Qian didn't even bat an eyelid. Is it Miss Mu again? No. The clan member lowered his eyes and said softly, it's a few young masters this time. Long Qian nodded and stood up. She glanced at Tu Xianji and said, go ahead and do what you have to do. Yes. Tu Xianji frowned and whispered, Clan leader, are we really going to work with Tianyin? Everyone knew that the 3 prefectures had started to form a team to kill Tianyin. If they were to work with Tianyin openly, they would be making an enemy out of the 3 prefectures. This wasn't a wise move at all. We don't have any other choice. Long Qian rubbed between his eyebrows and said, some of them have tried the new liquid that Tianyin brought out. It's good for their bodies. But Tu Xianji still found it strange that Tianyin would be so kind as to provide the Dragon Clan members with the advancement liquid. There were several young disciples in the clan who obtained a special ability after taking the liquid. Most of them were strength-based, but there were also sharpness and defensive abilities. Tianyin's generosity this time was strange, but Tu Xianji couldn't tell what was wrong. Will Tianyin reject our plan? Tu Xianji suddenly asked. Long Qian frowned. Aren't they enemies with the 3 prefectures? Why would they reject us? Didn't they want to kill Tianyin the most? But you're right. We don't need to tell Tianyin that we're sending people to the deserted island. Then young master and Miss Shengyun. Long Qian waved his hand. They chose their own path. It's up to them what they want to do. The person who came was Gong Songfeng, the head of the underground hall. Long Qian met Tianyin and the others in the hall. Other than Gong Songfeng, there were 3 other good-looking young men. Long Qian cupped his hands politely. May I know why you're here? We're almost done talking about our cooperation. Gong Songfeng glanced at the old patriarch, took out a brocade box, and handed it to Long Qian. When Long Qian opened it, her eyelids twitched. There were 300 bottles of medicinal liquid neatly arranged inside, and each small bottle was only enough for 1 mouthful. However, it was precisely this medicinal liquid that had allowed several youths in their clan to awaken very good special abilities. According to the messenger of the Heavenly Fate Palace, this kind of medicinal liquid could raise a person's cultivation by at least 1 small realm. Depending on the person's aptitude, the span of improvement would also be different. As for whether or not one could awaken a special ability, that would depend on one's talent. Long Qian took a deep breath and closed the lid of the box. Then she said calmly, tell me your conditions. Since the other party was willing to give out so many medicinal liquids at once, it was impossible that they didn't want anything in return. Hall Chief Gong had a calm look on his face as he smiled at Long Qian.
Since we are working together, it is only natural for us to reciprocate. Let's treat this as a gift from Tianyan to the Dragon Clan. Hall Master Gong's eyes flashed with a faint light. I hope that when the time comes, when we concentrate our forces to attack a certain place, the Dragon Clan will not hesitate to send people to help. Chapter 4683. Long Qian nodded with a smile. I understand. Fan Meng, who was standing behind Gong Songfeng, couldn't help but raise her head and look at the old chief. Did she know what kind of gift she had just received? Fan Meng's eyes drooped as her lips curled into a mocking smile. Chief. Another man came to report. The chief of the Duo family wishes to see you. Long Qian looked at Gong Songfeng apologetically and nodded. I'm sorry. I'll go meet the guest first. Go ahead. Gong Songfeng waved his hand casually as he watched Long Qian leave with her men. He rubbed his chin with his finger as he stared at Long Qian's back. There was no lack of naive fools in this world. You guys can stay here and watch over these test subjects, Gong Songfeng said with an indifferent expression. Okay. Hong Yi nodded and smiled. I wonder how effective this batch of improved medicine is. The cost of the medicine is much lower than the mutated pills. If it can be proven that the effects are similar, maybe it will change the world in the future. Louis couldn't help but laugh. Change the world? How? Alright, stop talking nonsense. Gong Songfeng looked around cautiously. Although his divine sense didn't sense anyone approaching, this was still the territory of the Wangchuan Long family. He couldn't be too presumptuous. Are we going to find out what the chief of the Long family and the chief of the Duo family are planning? Fan Ming lowered her eyes and asked softly. I don't think it's a big deal. Let those two old men do whatever they want. Let's go. Hong Yi smiled with disdain, not caring about the Wangchuan Long family and the Duo family at all. On the other hand, Long Qian found a small, secluded hall to receive the chief of the Wangchuan Duo family. Before that, she used her divine sense to create a barrier around the hall to prevent Tianyan and the other young men from eavesdropping. However, it was obvious that the other party didn't care about what she was planning. Chief Duo. Long Qian looked at the man with a gloomy expression in surprise. This man had a square face and a wide nose. He wore a long green robe and had sharp eyebrows. It was the head of the Forgotten Creek Duo clan, Duo Chang. Dragon Clan leader, I won't beat around the bush. Let's get straight to the point, Duo Chang said with a pained expression. On the deserted island near the snowy mountains, it is said that there are 33,000 elite soldiers from the 3 prefectures. Some of them are even sent by your Forgotten River Dragon Clan, right? When Long Qian heard this, her face immediately darkened and she said coldly, Are you here to denounce me? No. Duo Chang shook his head and said, I want to save my son. My son Duo Shanming is being held captive on that island. It is said that the one who has taken over the island is your granddaughter, Dragon Clan leader? You two have some history. Could you please speak up and ask her to release my son? I'm willing to apologize for what happened before. I only ask that she let my son go. Long Qian's face turned even uglier. The relationship between the one who had taken over the island and claimed to be the king had already come to an end. I'm sorry, Mr. Duo. I can't help you, Long Qian said coldly. She didn't have a good relationship with that person. She paused and suddenly said, If you want to save him, you can join us. Chapter 4684. Clan leader Duo Chang's eyes lit up. What do you mean, clan leader Long? We also plan to attack the deserted island, Long Qian said indifferently. Duo Chang was stunned and looked at Long Qian suspiciously. Isn't that your granddaughter? We've broken up a long time ago. Long Qian waved her hand impatiently and sneered at Duo Chang. You caused such a huge commotion in our Wangchuan Dragon Clan. You're so close to us. How could clan leader Duo not know? Duo Chang could only touch his nose and smile awkwardly. Alright, since it's a cooperative relationship, I also want to know what kind of force you'll send. 13th Elder. Duo Chang's eyes widened. Are you going to call 13th Elder back from the Holy Region? This is a matter of life and death for our clan, Long Qian said indifferently. She lowered her eyes. And Duo Chang suddenly realized that this clan leader Long was quite ruthless. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to bear to harm their own granddaughter. An iron-blooded woman was indeed an iron-blooded woman. She was extraordinary and different from ordinary women. I don't have a choice. After Long Qian said that, he stood up and walked out of the room. Clan leader Duo, I have already shown my clan's combat strength. You should have the same combat strength to work with me. Don't you want to save your son? Long Qian had heard about Duo Shanming's incident. She turned to look at Duo Chang. Based on my understanding of her, I'm afraid your son is already dead. The little stoic was too decisive. She probably wouldn't let Duo Shanming live. Duo Chang's eyes narrowed, and he was filled with rage. How confident are you? 90%, Long Qian said indifferently. Her temper is like this. Clan leader Duo, you should prepare for your funeral as soon as possible. Duo Chang smashed the table beside him in anger. If anything happens to my son, I'll pull out her tendons and skin her alive. She'll never be reincarnated. Long Qian only glanced at Duo Chang coldly before looking away and slowly walking out of the door. We'll gather tomorrow morning. I hope clan leader Duo will have all your men ready before dawn. Arbor quivered and almost rolled out of his bed. She reached out and rubbed her eyes. She hurriedly lifted the blanket and ran barefoot towards Phoenix's direction. She ran behind the tree and peeped at her husband for a while. He found that she was motionless, as still as water, showing no signs of waking up. Arbor raised his hand and pressed his chest, muttering to himself in a low voice. I felt an inexplicable sense of panic just now. I thought something had happened to my husband. Her husband was perfectly fine. Hence, Xiaomu simply used her divine conscience to roam around the star domain. He discovered that the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal was lazily sleeping on a hammock. Holy Sun Mi Yin was meditating, and little Tai Sui was peeling peanuts to eat with wine. When her divine sense swept over them, the three of them raised their eyes at the same time, revealing puzzled expressions. Jojo, why do you keep spying on us? The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal got up and sat lazily on the hammock. What? Jojo is spying on us. Dao Wuji's panicked voice came from nearby. I'm taking a bath. Arbor's small face instantly darkened, and she grumpily shouted, Go ahead and take a bath. I find it an eyesore. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal burst into laughter. Jojo, where are you? Chapter 4685. Arbor swallowed the rest of her words and her eyes chilled. Heh. Someone else has come to visit Hall Master Mu. Her figure left the star domain in an instant. At the same time, little Tai Sui and Ma Shurchen also ran out. Behind them was Everlasting Blade, a burden they couldn't shake off. Weren't you bathing? Arbor glanced at her grumpily. Everlasting Blade rubbed his nose and chuckled foolishly. That's right, I just finished bathing. I heard something so interesting, so I came out to take a look. What was so interesting about it? Arbor couldn't help but roll her eyes. In this one day and night, 3 to 4 groups of people came, and each group moved to rescue Mu Qingya. It seemed that Mu Qingya was indeed a core member of Heavenly Fate. These people didn't hesitate to sacrifice so many mutated three-eyed harpies and rhinoceros-skinned men, just to take her back from Arbor. Unfortunately, they couldn't even break through the first layer of the defensive talisman matrix, let alone the rest. Do I know you? Arbor noticed the masked middle-aged man leading the group this time, and her gaze involuntarily stopped on him. Looking at his appearance, he felt that he was somewhat familiar. The little girl had always been very sensitive to her enemies. Since she felt that he seemed familiar, it meant that she must have seen him somewhere before. The middle-aged man sneered at her, and subconsciously rubbed the emerald ring on his left thumb. He said coldly in a deep voice, Oh, the crown princess is a noble with many people, so how can you recognize this old man? The little stoic coldly glanced at him, and whipped his face with a vine whip without a second word. Speaking in such an eccentric manner, speak properly. The middle-aged man was clearly angered to the point of amusement. He dodged and shouted angrily, I'll give you a word of advice. Hand over Hall Master Mu. What kind of ugly thing dares to jump up and down in front of me? You're so long-winded. Arbor's voice suddenly paused. Her gaze landed on the emerald ring on the man's thumb, and a thought flashed through her mind. She suddenly clenched her fists and snorted. I remember now. I remember you. The venerable peach blossom immortal and little Taiswei, whose movements were halted by the little stoic's shout, couldn't help but turn to look at him. Who is he? Dao Wuji asked in a daze. In the next second, the little stoic waved her hand and took out several pieces of drawing paper from her inner world. She flipped open one of them and shook it in front of everyone. Her voice was cold as she stared at the painting. She said expressionlessly, Yubatian male. He was 58 years old, the patriarch of the Yu family in Wonka city of Shentian Prefecture. His actual combat strength was unknown. Realm unknown. The venerable peach blossom immortal could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He hurriedly reached out to take the few pieces of paper that the little fellow had shaken open. Dao Wuji almost burst out laughing when he saw this. Xiao Mu glanced at him expressionlessly before snatching back the arrest warrants in the venerable peach blossom immortal's hands and stuffing the rest into her sleeve. Holding the wanted poster of Yubatian in his hand, he compared it up and down, left and right, then pointed at the green thumb ring on the man's thumb. It's exactly the same. The venerable peach blossom immortal raised his hand to rub his glabella. He couldn't help but think. The atmosphere was clearly so tense. Looking at the little stoic's adorable expression, he couldn't help but want to laugh. What was going on? Where the hell did she learn this bad habit? She even drew and recorded the fleeing enemies one by one in a book. Was she going to compare and deal with them one by one in the future? Chapter 4686. When enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. When family head Yu saw the little stoic in front of him, his expression instantly turned extremely ugly. When he saw this girl, he thought of his dead eldest son Yu Hui. That genius of the Yu family was completely destroyed by this little girl just like that. The life lantern that Yu Hui sent back before his death was a bit blurry. Even now, he didn't know how his son died. He only vaguely saw what seemed to be a dagger repeatedly penetrating Yu Hui's neck. It had been a long time since the incident, so long that he almost forgot about this little stoic. She suddenly appeared in front of him so vividly that his eyes turned bloodshot from anger. A woman who killed his son should pay for it with her life. Hall Master Mu is truly amazing. Arbor stared coldly at family head Yu, a mocking smile on his lips. I told you that the person behind your Yu family couldn't be as simple as that lackey of the Panga clan. Arbor stared coldly at Yubatian and said coldly, when brother dog of the Panga clan came to find you, you decided to beat him at his own game, didn't you? You could complete the mission Mu Qingya gave you and sell a favor to the Panga clan at no cost. You really made a good deal out of this deal. Unfortunately, you didn't expect that I would leave the underground arena alive. You also didn't expect that the son you sent out would die in my hands just like that. Shut up. Yubatian roared angrily. That's right. The thing he regretted the most right now was sending his son Yu Hui to the small arena of Qian Luo's underground arena to fight this little stoic. That's right. He was the one who single-handedly caused Yu Hui's death. It was all his fault for being headstrong and opinionated. This extremely talented son died in the hands of the stoic. How did my son die? Him? That little bastard. He naturally died from his own stupidity. Arbor said coldly and mockingly. After the medicine he took to increase his cultivation by 3 times began to lose its effect, most of the spirit energy in his body disappeared without a trace after half an hour. Yubatian's eyes instantly widened, a hint of scarlet in the whites of his eyes. Arbor. Arbor narrowed her eyes, and the startled swan dagger flew out from her conscious, aiming straight for Yubatian's neck. Clang! Yubatian reached out to grab the dagger. However, how could he catch it? The startled swan dagger jumped out and stabbed his hand, then flew into Arbor's hand. Yubatian's palms were as hard as iron claws. Arbor took a closer look and saw that Yubatian's hand had indeed turned into an iron claw. It could stretch and shrink freely and was very agile. His fingers were like iron branches, each of them extremely thin and long. Arbor looked at him coldly. Did you fuse with the iron rhinoceros claws? So you're the little leader of the rhinoceros skin people. Arbor sneered. You look so funny. Ubatian. Did you ever think that you would end up like this? If you look like this, even if you successfully rescue Hall Master Mu, you won't be able to look at her. She probably won't even bother to look at you, right? Arbor said sarcastically. It seems that Shentian Prefecture's Prefecture Lord Gung is much more normal than you. Shut up. Arbor swung a vine whip at Ubatian's arm. A deep layer of ice flashed in her eyes. You're the one who should shut up. Snap. Chapter 4687. The vine whip left a long and thin white mark on Ubatian's arm. Arbor's eyes were clear and bone-chilling. Family head you. Didn't you receive your son's life lantern miniature? What? You didn't see it clearly? The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal glanced at Arbor helplessly. As long as Jojo encountered someone he disliked, his words would be extremely sharp and terrifying. He could already imagine how stimulating the little stoic's next words would be. As expected, Arbor didn't need Ubatian's reply and naturally continued. Your son's spirit energy dissipated, and in the end, I used this dagger to repeatedly stab his neck meridians. Then, Arbor suddenly winked at Ubatian and sneered. He died. Yuhui released 2 zombies, one big and one small, outside Qian Luo's underground arena. The small zombie even bit her and almost killed her. Just because she didn't die didn't mean she wasn't injured. At the time, she was so scared that she almost fainted. She thought she would never see Jojo's lotus for the rest of her life. She had suffered a great loss at Yuhui's hands, and from then on, she developed the habit. When fighting zombies, she had to pay special attention to their movements in case there was a companion zombie hidden somewhere on their bodies. This incident had both pros and cons for her. At the time, she clearly understood that she wasn't invincible. When fighting zombies, if she let her guard down, she might suffer a fatal blow. Ubatian clenched his fists tightly and roared. Then, a large group of weirdos wrapped in rhinoceros skin charged toward them like a tide. Ubatian's gaze abruptly turned cold as he stared at Xiao Mu. Suddenly, he sidestepped and reached out to grab her. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's seemingly soft palm quickly dispersed Ubatian's attack. He leaped away and lured Ubatian to the side to exchange blows. Ubatian wasn't a fool. He naturally saw that Arbor was the core of this place. Right now, as long as he could grab Arbor with lightning speed, he could resolve all of his current troubles and rescue Qingya from the defensive talisman matrix. With a wave of Ubatian's hand, a huge beast abruptly jumped out of the spirit beast space and swiped its claws at the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal. Ma Shurchen didn't even look at it. A wisp of wood spirit energy attached to her longsword softly attacked the huge spirit beast. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ubatian took the opportunity to turn around. Like a great rock spreading its wings, he aggressively pounced toward Xiao Mu. As long as he succeeded, Arbor would be in his hands. At that time, no matter how powerful these people were, they would have to obediently submit to him, Ubatian. Ubatian's iron claw was about to grip Xiao Mu's neck. Suddenly, a sword shot out from the side and quickly deflected Ubatian's claws. Ubatian was furious. He turned to look and couldn't help but roar. What are you doing? The man who attacked him was one of his subordinates. He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. How dare he attack him? The subordinate was so frightened that his face turned pale. He stammered. I didn't do it on purpose. Deputy Hall Master, I shut up. Ubatian slapped the subordinate blocking his way. Like chopping vegetables, the young man's head was chopped to the side. Arbor couldn't help but shake his head. Patriarch, you're too ruthless. Chapter 4688. In any case, that person was still his subordinate. Although he had been controlled by her telekinesis midway, and had rushed over to block the claw for her. But in essence, that person had not done so willingly. And Ubatian, this obstinate and self-opinionated old man, did not even give him a chance to explain himself before killing him. Deputy Hall Master? Arbor coldly glanced at Ubatian. You are the Flying Heavens Deputy Hall Master? Ubatian looked at her with a cold smile. You don't need to know who I am. You only need to know that you... What's going on? This time Ubatian was truly stunned. He had seen very clearly just now that when his iron claw reached for Arbor, a heavenly fate disciple had suddenly turned around and blocked the claw for her with a blade. Ubatian glared angrily at Arbor. Little girl, do you think I don't know that you are actually someone with witchcraft? Ignorant and ill-informed, Arbor disdainfully glanced at him, then glanced behind Ubatian. Ubatian immediately turned his head back vigilantly. Who would have thought that there was no one behind him at all? He instantly realized that he had been tricked. But it was too late. Arbor's startled swan dagger twirled with a gorgeous light and quickly moved to the old man's side, stabbing directly at his neck. Dang, dang, dang. After a few stabs, Arbor could not help but be stunned. She thought to herself, this Ubatian's body has been modified to be like an iron bastion. Is it this sturdy? There are no flaws at all. The water spirit's power to turn ice is actually useless against him? When she looked up again, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal, who had finished off the large beast, had already floated to Arbor's side. He glanced at Ubatian with a cold expression. This person has a lot of rhinoceros skin people with him, Ji Chen said softly. Because after killing a group of rhinoceros skin people, the number of rhinoceros skin people in the enemy camp had suddenly doubled. It was clear that someone had a storage talisman, or a spatial spirit artifact, secretly releasing a continuous stream of battle power. It's fine. Pass down the order to kill the Heavenly Fate team in batches. 30 teams will go first, and the rest will rest. After that, we'll take turns. Arbor said coldly. He thought coldly in his heart. I'd like to see who will be the one to die of exhaustion. There were 30,000 elite members of the Triple Kill Heavenly Fate squad on this island, as long as there were no accidents. It was impossible for Ubatian to escape from this place. As she thought about it, she felt an inexplicable sense of irritation. Something flashed through her mind, but she couldn't remember what it was. Ubatian coldly ordered, prepare the Godstone cannons at the back. As he spoke, several divine stone cannons appeared in front of the defensive formation. They were pushed forward by more than a dozen people. On Arbor's side, the Kill Heaven's Fate team was frantically killing the rhinoceros skin mutants. However, their numbers were like a steady stream, gradually increasing. Killing the Heavenly Fate battle team had left them feeling a little tired. Fortunately, they had obeyed Arbor's orders and prepared for large groups of people. Every round, they would take turns, and there would always be time to catch their breaths and recover. As they spoke, the Heavenly Fate members at the back began to attack the defensive formation under the cover of Ubatian and the others. They planned to use the Godstone cannons to blast open the defensive formation and rush into the snowy mountain valley to rescue Muqingya. Flying Paradise was really a big deal. Xiaomu looked on coldly from the sidelines as they fooled around. If they could blast it open, it would be her loss. Chapter 4689. Did Ubatian think the defensive talisman array was a joke? That was a defensive array that she had stacked countless times. Just the handful of peerless purple talismans that he had spilled out had already reached a terrifying level that no one could estimate. Even if she used so many God's stone cannons to bombard it, it would still be futile in less than half a month. Besides, as long as she continued to replenish talisman energy, this defensive array would be destroyed. Haha, it would be a fool's dream if he wanted to destroy it. She didn't remind Ubatian of the mysteries of the talisman array. Xiaomu had been watching coldly from the sidelines the entire time, watching this group of people jumping up and down and tormenting themselves in front of her like clowns. Ubatian's loyal and protective expression disgusted Xiaomu a bit. What kind of magic potion did Muqingya feed him, that he would save her at all costs? Arbor was very sure that today's incident wasn't ordered by the higher-ups of Tianyin. How could the higher-ups of Tianyin waste a large number of rhinoceros skin mutants to attack the island for a worthless Muqingya? Muqingya wasn't that noble, and she couldn't be that important. In other words, today's battle was definitely Ubatian's private action for Muqingya. She didn't expect a heartless woman like Muqingya to have so many idiots around her. How amazing! Arbor curled her lips and glanced at Ubatian casually. If Yuhui knew this in the underworld, he would cry himself to death. Arbor shook her head and sneered. Back then, his father pushed him to his death for an ignorant woman. Now for this woman, he wants to die together with me like a madman. Do you think you're worthy? You killed Yu Hui, Yu Batian roared. How dare you make sarcastic remarks? Yu Hui was killed by me. Arbor nodded. He thought to himself, but I've already lost Yu Hui's life for this. I was poisoned and almost died. If the little tree didn't bear a holy fruit, Master Jojo wouldn't exist. Therefore it was simply an eye for an eye, a quid pro quo. Yu Batian glared at Arbor. Why do you have to go against Qingya? Arbor couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. However, the smile in her eyes was only on the surface, and did not enter her eyes at all. When you say that, why don't you touch your conscience and ask yourself? You and I had never met when we were in Wengka City. Why did you insist on using Jing Minyao's name, when you were actually carrying out Mu Qingya's orders to destroy me? Patriarch you don't seem to understand one thing. You're the ones who attacked first. Now, what right do you have to cry and shout that you can't beat me? Arbor, let Qingya go, and we'll forget about what happened between us. What a touching truth. Arbor looked at him sarcastically. Kill them. Arbor raised his hand and released 2 Swanee holy beasts. Without any explanation, they charged towards Yu Batian. Everyone saw 2 gorgeous shadows, one purple and one black, streaking across the sky. Shocked, Yu Batian hurriedly summoned a group of rhinoceros-skinned people to protect him. However, the 2 holy beasts had already broken through the crowd and pounced on him. They were so fast that he had no time to react. Chapter 4690. Block it! Yu Batian roared angrily. At the same time his body changed again. A pair of rhinoceros horns grew out of his head, and a complete rhinoceros hide wrapped around his chest and back in an instant, playing a protective role. It wasn't the first time Arbor had seen a demon cultivator mutate. She just felt that Yu Batian's rhinoceros hide was a little extreme. She knew that Tian Yin had an extremely significant effect in transforming the human body. They had always tried to turn normal people into mutants, and even tried to do it on cultivators. It was obvious that Tian Yin had made some breakthrough in his research on demon cultivators. Yu Batian wrapped himself in rhinoceros hide and hid in the crowd of rhinoceroses. A hint of surprise flashed through his eyes. The information Tian Yin had gathered about Arbor covered all aspects. It included how many holy beasts had appeared around her, how many transcendent realm cultivators she had, and the latest information that she might have spirit realm. It could be said that he had investigated everything in great detail. However, legends and hearsay were one thing. At this moment, witnessing her summoning 2 Swanee sacred beasts, without saying a word, was another matter altogether. Yu Batian's eyes flashed with madness. No one knew what he was thinking right now. If he could make use of the 2 Swanee saint beasts. Yu Batian couldn't help but take a deep breath when he thought of this. He carefully wrapped himself in rhinoceros hide, and moved a few steps behind the rhinoceroses. Then he shouted, "Focus fire on the defensive wall to the east. No matter what method you use, break it first." Before he could finish his words, he suddenly heard a rumbling sound coming from above his head. When he looked up, he saw a huge iron ball rolling down from behind. Yu Batian's eyes bulged slightly. He really didn't expect a metal ball so big that 10 people couldn't wrap their arms around it to drop down from the sky. "Pay attention to defense." Yu Batian shouted again. The rhinoceros-skinned people were like moving corpses that had no thoughts of their own. Hearing this, they all gathered and fought to block the iron ball for Yu Batian. Yu Batian saw that something was wrong. It seemed that even a dozen rhinoceros-skinned men would not be able to withstand the crushing force of the iron ball. If they didn't run now, when would they? He scrambled out of the mutated crowd and turned around to look at the big iron ball that was emitting a black light above the rhinoceros-skinned people. Before he could even breathe a sigh of relief, he couldn't help but roar, "Disperse!" At the same time, the metal ball opened up from the middle like metal flower petals, spreading out piece by piece. Black liquid gushed out of it and shot toward the rhinoceros-skinned people, accompanied by extremely thin silver needles that looked like gadflies. What the hell is this? Yu Batian's pupil shrank. At this moment, he wished that his parents had given him 2 more legs,
so that he could run faster. Arbor stared fixedly at that large iron ball for a long time before curling his lips and muttering to himself, "The iron gallbladder filiform needle made by Duan Yu looks quite powerful." It was just that its appearance was really ugly. The last time he asked her how much poison she wanted, it turned out that it was all mixed in with the hidden weapons. In just a few moments, black smoke began to rise from the rhinoceros skin man's venom-drenched body. Chapter 4691. Skin and flesh fell off one after another. It was disgusting and horrifying to look at with the naked eye. Arbor shifted his gaze and looked in Yubation's direction. "Family head Yu, since you're here, why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Arbor waved his hand in the air, his eyes cold and murderous. "Why don't you stay here and become fertilizer?" The two Swanee sacred beasts that were originally scattering the rhinoceros-skinned humans abruptly turned around and swooped down in Yubation's direction again. The power of a sacred beast's attack was no laughing matter. How would Yubatian dare to meet them head-on? He could only try his best to avoid them. Unfortunately, the two Swanee sacred beasts had received the little master's order and were determined not to let him go. After swooping down and slapping the two rhinoceros-skinned humans away, the two Swanee let out a long cry and attacked Yubatian in a pincer attack, one from the front and one from the back. How would Yubatian dare to meet them head-on? He hastily pulled a few rhinoceros-skinned humans in front of him and fled toward the defensive wall. Right now he was feeling a bit anxious and irritated. Arbor's guess was correct. He had privately decided to rescue Qingya this time. He hadn't received any instructions or acknowledgement from Tianyun's higher-ups. It looked like the mutant rhinoceros-skinned humans he brought had suffered heavy casualties. He wouldn't be able to explain himself when he returned. If he still couldn't rescue Qingya after sacrificing so much, then all his previous efforts would be for naught, and the losses would outweigh the gains. When Yubatian considered this, his hatred for the little stoic rose steadily to the highest point. It was all this stoic's fault for opposing Qingya at every turn and going against them at every turn. If this stoic hadn't caused so much trouble, Qingya would still be sitting peacefully in Tianyun's headquarters as the high and mighty soaring heavens hall master. Qingya's many years of hard work and painstaking effort were all ruined by this damned little stoic. Even he felt that it wasn't worth it for Qingya, let alone Qingya. Yubatian slammed his head into the defensive wall. Only then did he realize that he had nowhere to run. His eyes were red as he turned around and glared at the two Swanee hovering in the air. He roared, "Come on! You forced me into this situation. If you have the guts, come at me." The two Swanee sacred beasts let out a shrill cry and swooped down from the left and right. Yubation's heartbeat quickened. He counted 3, 2, 1 in his heart. He suddenly turned around and pushed the god's stone cannon out. Braving the sudden gust of wind caused by the holy beast's pouncing attack, he laughed maniacally. His eyes were filled with rage and viciousness. With one hand, he threw all the divine stones he had into the machine. He let out a thunderous roar. "All of you go to hell!" Boom! When the god's stone cannon fired, because of the excessive amount of god's stones, the entire god's stone cannon couldn't bear the heavy load and suddenly exploded. Yubatian was sent flying, but he didn't forget to raise his head and stare fiercely at the two Swanee sacred beasts in the sky. His divine sense had already made all the necessary preparations. Once these two saint beasts were seriously injured and on the verge of death, he decided to immediately send his divine sense into their spiritual consciousness. No, one was fine, but it would be difficult to control two at the same time. But if there was only one, Yubatian suddenly felt like his head was being pricked by needles, as if countless tiny silver needles were uniformly stabbing his brain. Chapter 4692. Suddenly, it was as if a series of incomparably gorgeous fireworks had been set off in his own conscious, exploding with bangs and pops. He could almost feel that his conscious was being shattered, that kind of horror. It felt as if a whole piece of cake had suddenly been crushed by someone's foot, and then trampled into smithereens. Yubatian held his head and couldn't help but howl. The pain of having one's conscious shattered was indescribable.
It was not enough for outsiders to understand. If one hadn't reached that point, they would never be able to experience such pain. It was hard for him to still be able to hold his breath. He held his head slightly and tried to focus his eyes on the two swani holy beasts jumping back and forth in the air. They were fine. They were completely fine. The blast of the god's stone cannon just now had an extremely strong recoil. The blast of the god's stone cannon that sent him flying actually didn't have any effect on them. Arbor hurriedly jumped into the air and flew to Little Black and Little Purple. With a stiff little face, she carefully looked up and down at her two little friends. Are they okay? The two holy beasts shook their heads at the same time. Arbor breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, at the critical moment, she hurriedly threw out a set of defensive array glyphs and finally blocked a wave of attack for the two. But now, seeing that they were unharmed and that the blast of the god's stone cannon just now didn't seem to have any effect on them at all, she thought that she worried too much. Speaking of which, the defense of holy beasts was incomparable to that of ordinary divine beasts and spirit beasts. The god's stone cannon probably couldn't break the defense of the two holy beasts at all. In this world, probably only the tools used to throw holy stones could cause damage to holy beasts. Arbor's eyes turned slightly and looked at Ubatian, who was lying on the ground, holding his head and struggling at death's door. Her lips curled into a sarcastic sneer. This Ubatian couldn't be a big idiot, right? He actually wanted to pierce through her spiritual conscience and forcefully reverse the contract? Who did he think he was? With his pitiful little divine sense, he could invade her ocean-like conscience? He was really a whimsical person. But now, seeing him lying on the ground obediently and struggling at death's door, Xiaomu also couldn't be bothered to bicker with him. He was just a person who was about to die. What was there to talk about with a dead person? It was just a waste of time. Arbor, do you think you've won? Ubatian strenuously turned his face towards Arbor with a sneer that was uglier than crying. Arbor was too lazy to care about a dead person. He shifted his gaze and turned to the group of rhinoceros-skinned people who were soaked in venom and gradually rotting on the ground. It could be seen that no matter how much it mutated, it was as if it had an impenetrable body. However, under the influence of the man-eating flower's poison, they would still die. Ubatian mustered the last of his strength to rapidly inflate himself and roll rapidly towards Xiaomu. Jojo. Yuan Shurchen was shocked. When he turned around, he saw that the crazy old man had no regard for his own life. He wanted to drag Jojo down with him as he blew himself up. Arbor looked on expressionlessly. Another large metal ball flew through the air and smashed straight down at Ubatian. Ubatian's face contorted. He used all the strength in his body and hurriedly dodged the falling metal ball. Just as he was about to get up and run towards Arbor again, suddenly, the third big iron ball fell from the sky and smashed right into his body. Everyone only heard a tragic howl. When they turned around, they saw that Ubatian had been smashed into the ground by the metal ball. Chapter 4694. Jojo, Long Huan led his men to ambush us from behind. The killer Heavenly Fate team was caught off guard and lost more than 100 people. Xiaomu abruptly clenched her fists and couldn't resist closing her eyes. She finally knew why she felt that something was wrong when she was fighting Ubatian. At that time, there was a vague sense of irritation in his heart, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was Long Huan. She did not see Long Huan on the battlefield. When Ubatian and his men came to attack, which corner of the city did he hide in to enjoy the cool breeze? Arbor's eyes lit up. She walked out of the cave. Let's go take a look. What was Long Huan trying to do? The attitude he had displayed earlier made Xiaomu feel that this person seemed to be very sincere in alleviating the strained relationship between her and the Dragon Clan. Long Huan had always been the peacemaker, but now Long Huan's sudden betrayal surprised her. The killer Heavenly Fate team members reacted and started to fight back. After all, Long Huan only had 3,000 men under his command. The reason why his sneak attack was successful was because the enemy was not on guard against them at all. If they were to face them head-on, Long Huan's men would not be able to hold out for long. When Arbor rushed over, she saw the two sides fighting fiercely. Long Huan led his 3,000 men and retreated toward the beach. After all, they were outnumbered 10 to 1. Long Huan had held out for long enough. This was because his ambush was successful and caused the killer Heavenly Fate team to panic. Arbor looked coldly in Long Huan's direction through the crowd. Long Shangyun was being protected by a few mermaids. As she retreated, she was anxiously shouting at Long Huan. The voices were too noisy. Arbor could not hear what Long Shangyun was saying, but she could see some clues from her anxious expression. Could it be even Long Shangyun herself didn't understand why her brother would suddenly make a move? Arbor thought for a while and walked up quickly. He glanced at Long Huan coldly, but didn't say anything. But when Long Huan met her gaze, he only felt that it was unusually cold, with a trace of bone-chilling coldness. Arbor turned around and whispered a few words to the captains of Team Tianyun. Fairy Yellow Crane led a group of pharmacists and busied themselves in the rear. Last night, he had fought a fierce battle with the rhinoceros skin men that Ubatian had brought with him. The group of alchemists led by the Heavenly Pill Association finally finished their rescue and treatment work. However, he didn't expect to receive news in the blink of an eye that young Master Long had brought people to attack the camp. Over 100 members of the Heavenly Fate team had suffered heavy casualties. The group of alchemists did not rest for long before they dragged their tired bodies and continued to fight to save people. Many pill refiners had weak constitutions, so Fairy Yellow Crane took out a box of nutrient fluid and gave it to them. "Everyone hold on, hold on." Fairy Huang, he urged with a frown as she looked up at Xiao Mu. Xiao Qiao looked calm on the surface, but she knew that Xiao Qiao's heart was filled with disappointment and coldness at this moment. Her relationship with the Dragon Clan was so tense. Previously, she had taken in Long Huan and his sister. This meant that Jojo was absolutely calm in the face of such a big problem. The grudges between Xiao Qiao and the Dragon Clan, compared to the important matters of the country, which was more important? Chapter 4695. She had always been very clear-cut about her personal grudges, and wouldn't involve the world's affairs for no reason. However, this Long Huan ultimately disappointed her to the core. Fairy Huang, he couldn't resist glancing at Arbor again. On the other side, Long Shangyun was being protected by several merfolk, and involuntarily retreated to the beach. "Why?" Long Shangyun turned to stare at her brother and asked anxiously. "Why, big brother? There aren't so many whys in this world." Long Huan calmly glanced at Long Shangyun. Long Shangyun's heart inexplicably skipped a beat. Since Big Brother's expression was so calm and composed, then today's matter must have been planned for a long time, and wasn't an impromptu action. So from the moment the 3,000 personal guards joined in to kill the Heavenly Fate Battalion, everything was Big Brother's scheme? But how was that possible? She came out with Big Brother, and was very clear about her father's attitude toward the little stoic. Big Brother had always been extremely respectful to Father, and almost obeyed his every word. Father told them to get along well with the little stoic. So why would Big Brother suddenly do something like this? Joining in to kill the Heavenly Fate Battalion, and then stabbing them in the back. Could it be that all of this was premeditated? Killing the Heavenly Fate Battalion had close to 100 casualties. This number of close to 100 floated back and forth in Long Shangyun's head, bouncing around continuously. She took a deep breath and forcefully closed her eyes, boundless sorrow involuntarily rising in her heart. They couldn't go back. Their relationship with the little stoic couldn't go back. She understood this little cousin too well after interacting with her during this period of time. This was a person who couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand in her eyes. No matter what excuse Big Brother had or what motive he had. Once they started, they couldn't go back. There would always be 100 casualties from killing the Heavenly Fate Battalion between them and the little stoic. Long Huan glanced at his sister's expression and sighed. He couldn't help but say softly, "Time is a bit tight right now. I'll tell you the details after we get to a safe place." He was very sorry that he even hid his own sister from them. How could he feel good on the inside? But all of this was a fate he couldn't defy. He had no choice but to do this. It's still for that 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl. Long Shangyun's voice was somewhat hoarse. It's Sister Shui Yuan's condition has worsened, right? Long Huan reached out to deflect an arrow that was flying towards him. He turned around to look at his sister. With a complicated expression and a heavy heart, he nodded slightly. Yes. Long Shangyun's fingers curled up slightly, and she closed her eyes. Big brother, didn't you keep reminding me not to provoke the stoic face? You and I are no match for her. Long Huan clenched his fists tightly and pursed his lips. Big brother, Long Shangyun asked with a stern expression. Do you not care about your own life? If the stoic face becomes heartless and callous, she won't consider that we previously interacted harmoniously with her for such a period of time. Now that you've attacked her people, we can no longer be friends. I know. I understand everything you've said. I understand everything. Long Huan raised his hand to cover his face, feeling a little sad. How could he not blame himself, feel uncomfortable, depressed, and irritated? But he really didn't have a choice. Between the entire Long clan and the little stoic, the balance of selfishness in his heart leaned toward the entire Long clan's future. Chapter 4696. So you, falling out with grandmother, and being chased all the way here by grandmother was actually a ploy? Long Shangyun looked at Long Huan incredulously. It was a ploy, but it was also a ploy out of helplessness. He was forced to accept grandmother's order and hide by the little stoic's side. Until this morning, he suddenly received grandmother's order for him to take 3,000 personal guards and attack immediately. Although he didn't know why grandmother's order was so urgent, he had no other choice but to attack the Heavenly Fate battle team. There was a great disparity in numbers, but because of their surprise attack, the entire Heavenly Fate battle team fell into chaos. I also didn't want to. Long Huan glanced back at Arbor and murmured, if I had a second choice, I wouldn't choose to stand against her. So the shark pearl is really that important? Long Shangyun couldn't help but clench her fists and take a deep breath. Shangyun, what's wrong? Didn't you also want to save your sister Shui Yuan very much? Long Shangyun didn't know what kind of strange emotion she was feeling. She only felt a faint sorrow lingering in her heart. Sister Shui Yuan was very important, but they seemed to be thinking about killing that stoic face and snatching the 10,000-year shark pearl from her to save Sister Shui Yuan. In order to save one relative, he had to kill another. Was this really a good thing? She should be extremely disappointed in the forgetful River Dragon clan. She should no longer have any expectations. Long Shangyun thought. Now that I think about it, the entire forgotten River Dragon clan indeed didn't treat her very well. Long Shangyun said very quietly inside. She has reason to blame us. Long Huan felt his heart tighten, and he abruptly turned to look at Long Shangyun. Grandmother promised me that she wouldn't be harmed. Actually, as long as she hands over the 10,000-year shark pearl, everything will be fine. Grandmother's wrinkled, frosty face seemed to appear before Long Huan's eyes again. She had lost a lot of weight recently, and her cheeks were sunken. Child. Grandmother had stared at him with a very strange gaze. Child, take it as me begging you. For the future of our dragon clan, and for the sake of saving your father's life, you must stand on my side, okay? Father's life. Long Huan heard himself speak in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Yes, your father's life. His grandmother looked at him firmly and said kindly, Child, each of us has to make the right choice for our own future. Don't take the wrong path, or you won't be able to turn back. Young lord, young master, one of the guards pushed Long Huan with his rough hand, trying to wake him up from his thoughts. If he was still in a daze at this time, he would be courting death. Long Yun took a deep breath and hurriedly nodded at the group of personal guards. Retreat to the rear. Arbor, Yuan Shurchen, and Holy Sun Mi Yin led 30,000 members of the Heaven's Fate Battle Squad and surrounded the retreating Dragon Clan clansmen. Right at this moment, the seawater behind Long Huan's group suddenly started to surge. Suddenly, many mermen appeared from the sea. They were all armed with firearms and had sharp gazes. All of a sudden, there was a loud explosion. Excitement flashed through the eyes of these attacking mermen. Chapter 4697. Long Qian's words kept echoing in her mind. Take back the 10,000-year-old shark pearl. Take back the 10,000-year-old shark pearl. Create a glorious future for the Wangchuan dragon clan. The future was worth looking forward to. As long as they obtained this 10,000-year-old shark pearl, they could awaken the snowfield's eldest miss, who had been in a deep slumber. At that time, the entire Wangchuan dragon clan would receive the baptism power of the shark pearl. They would definitely become stronger. Moreover, with the medicine distributed by Tianyun, they could advance indefinitely, and even obtain special abilities after consuming it. The Wangchuan dragon clan's powerful and prosperous future was just around the corner. Just thinking about it made them excited. Arbor coldly looked at the Wangchuan dragon clan, who had taken out their firearms. His gaze fell on Long Huan through the crowd. You're really good. The little stoic's voice was cold and resolute, causing Long Huan's heart to tremble. An indescribable feeling of irritation filled his chest. If you're willing to hand over the 10,000-year-old shark pearl. Long Huan looked at the little stoic with a complicated expression. He gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, I can guarantee that grandmother will absolutely not harm you. Humph, Arbor sneered. Use your life as a guarantee? Yes, I can guarantee it with my life. Long Huan nodded with sincerity. Unfortunately, your lowly life is worthless. Princess Wushuang snickered in annoyance. She casually summoned the long sword in her conscience and said with a frosty expression, Let's fight. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Now that things have come to this, do you still want to reconcile? That's right. Qi Xian little fatty. And the others were trembling in anger. They looked at Jojo worriedly. In the beginning, it was the Wangchuan dragon clan, who proposed to form an alliance with the 3 provinces to resist Tianyun. But now, it was this bunch of bastards who betrayed the 3 provinces alliance first. Is there something wrong with you guys? Qi Xian clenched her fists in anger, and her voice trembled. Since you don't have any sincerity in cooperating, who exactly are you trying to disgust by pretending to cooperate from the start? Oh, I understand. You've been tricking us from the start. Isn't that right? At this point in time, any further explanation would be futile. Could Long Huan tell them that he was following his father's instructions to come and talk about the future with Jojo? He knew better than anyone else that cooperating with Tianyun was simply an act against humanity, and there would be no good end for him in the future. However, the reason he jumped out to carry out his grandmother's orders was partly for the sake of the dragon clan's future, and partly for his father. His grandmother had said that his father's body had suffered an extremely serious injury a few years ago. If he could use the shark pearl to extend his life, it might not be able to completely heal his old injury, but it would definitely allow his father to live for another 100 years. He had no better choice. None. He had no other choice but to promise his grandmother. The little son in Qi Xuanxuan's heart was burning so fiercely that it was about to explode. Her heart ached for her Qiao. What did her Qiao do wrong? What right did everyone have to accuse her of having the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl? What right did everyone have to spit at her and demand her to hand over the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl so righteously? Who do you think you are? Qi Xian roared angrily. Long Huan, I thought you were a smart person. But now, it seems that you people from the Wangchuan dragon clan are truly disgusting. Chapter 4698. All of you are of the same breed, Qi Xian sneered. Put away your greedy faces. Don't make it sound so nice. Exactly. If you want to rob us, just do it. Why do you have to make it sound so righteous? Princess Wushuang sneered. Mata continued. We are not looking down on the people who came to rob us. Let's talk with our abilities. Long Huan lowered his eyes. When he raised his head again, he continued to persuade with a sincere expression. Jojo, grandmother has sent out the most powerful people of the dragon clan of Wangchuan. 13th elder. The 13th elder was not the 13th elder. There were 13 elders in total. They were the elders of the dragon clan of Wangchuan, who had ascended to the holy region. No one knew their true abilities. The elders who had ascended to the holy region for a longer period of time
were naturally more powerful. They might be at the peak of the immortal supremacy realm, or they might have already entered the godly supremacy realm. They might even be half a step into the holy supremacy realm, of course. They had paid a hefty price to summon all 13 elders back. The heavenly axiom naturally would not allow the 13 elders to suddenly descend on the 3 continents. However, so what if the heavenly axiom did not allow it? So what if the heavenly axiom sealed half of their powers? It was more than enough to deal with Arbor and his people. Jojo. Long Huan was still worried about the little girl. I am not joking with you. This time grandmother has made up her mind. She had also made up her mind. Actually, the 10,000-year mermaid pearl has been compatible with your body for many years. It can be said that you have formed a contract with it. No one can take it away from you. We are not trying to take it away. We just want to borrow it. Moreover, to be honest, the 10,000-year mermaid pearl was originally the holy item of the dragon clan of Wangchuan. Now we just want to borrow it to carry out the baptism ceremony of the mermaid pearl. There is no loss in giving it to you. Are you done with your nonsense? Arbor interrupted Long Huan coldly. He stared at him coldly. Where is your 13th elder, who has ascended to the holy region? Are they here yet? If any Tom, Dick, or Harry can sneak out of the holy realm, do the ordinary people of the 3 continents still want to live? Arbor's eyes were cold. What is your heavenly Tao? Where is Long Qian? I want to see her. Arbor's eyes were extremely cold. The aura that rose from his body caused people to be shocked. Now, she called her by her name, and didn't even say the words old madam. Long Shangyun felt a little uncomfortable. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she realized that she was in no position to say anything. I'm here. After the crowd parted, a woman with white hair on her temples and wrinkles on her face walked forward slowly, leaning on a scepter made of green wood. Behind him, Prophet 2 and 2 clansmen followed closely, looking at Arbor with vigilance. Long Qian, let me ask you the truth. Do you dare to answer me? Ask away. Long Qian looked at the expressionless little girl in front of her. Her eyes were like deep pools of ice, and her heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. This little stoic and her daughter Long Qian were 2 completely different people. Long Qian could let go of the past because the dragon clan of Wangchuan had raised her. But this little girl definitely wouldn't. Chapter 4699. A rupture was a rupture, and this relationship couldn't be mended anymore. What's more, they were currently in a state of mutual hostility. The little stoic stared at Long Qian with an extremely cold gaze, as though she was looking at a complete stranger. No, it was at most a sweeping glance at a stranger. She looked at her as though she was looking at a mortal enemy. Long Qian's heart trembled for no reason. She didn't want things to be like this. But the truth was that they had already reached this point. No matter who it was, they couldn't turn back. Long clan leader. Duo Chang couldn't help but snicker. We've already reached this point, so there's no need for us to speak nicely to her and answer her questions. It was fine if he didn't know, but ever since Duo Chang found out that Long Qian was so ruthless that she summoned 13 elders, who were at the peak of the venerated immortal realm, and above from the holy region, his heart calmed down. Thus his heart calmed down. Everyone was well aware of what kind of people came from the holy region. As long as they could fool the heavenly Tao, everything would be fine today. He had to make this vicious girl hand over his son, Duo Shanming. If this damn girl dared to harm a single strand of his son's hair, he would bury her with his son. The old man's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared coldly at Arbor, as though he was looking at a dead person. It would be fine if this damn girl was tactful, but if she wasn't, she would have to bear the consequences. Long Qian ignored Duo Chang and sighed. She looked at Arbor indifferently. Mu Qiao, we don't have to come to this point. Stop talking nonsense. Arbor interrupted her again. His eyes were like stars that spun vigorously, as though they wanted to suck in a person's soul. Let me ask you. Back then, you also had the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl because of this reason. That's why you sent people to Sikong planet to kill Mother, right? Qi Xian and the others were stunned. They had all heard about what happened to Jojo's mother.
Wasn't it Mu Qingya who did this terrible thing? Why was Jojo saying that now? Qi Xianxian couldn't help but shudder in her heart. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Long Qian in shock. Long Qian's expression was also changing rapidly, as though she couldn't react in time. Arbor no longer needed Long Qian's answer. It was as if a huge hole had been opened in her heart. At this moment, there was a cold wind blowing in from the bottom of her heart, all the way to her limbs and bones. She felt a bone-chilling cold. That icy cold feeling made her unable to speak, unable to utter a single word. Was the truth really so cruel? A person's facial expression was the most realistic. Long Qian wasn't mentally prepared when Arbor suddenly asked her this question. She didn't even notice that her face had twisted slightly for a moment. Arbor saw all the subtle changes in his expression. It really is too scary, Xiaomu thought. Could it be that Mother already knew the truth back then, and knew that not all of those people were sent by Mu Qingya? The forgetful River Dragon clan had once sent their clansmen to mix in and take advantage of the situation to take her life. So she simply had nothing left to live for. At that time, she was severely injured and in danger. Even if the mermaid pearl couldn't save her, couldn't it extend her life for another 8 to 10 years? No, she didn't want to save herself anymore. She was so desperate that she completely gave up on herself. She didn't even care about her beloved daughter. Chapter 4700. Long Qian had given the millennium-old mermaid pearl to her daughter. Firstly, Arbor was born with a weak body. Without the mermaid pearl, he wouldn't be able to live for long. Secondly, Long Qian didn't have the will to continue living. There was a negative emotion that could be explained by 4 words: self-abandonment. In the end, Long Qian sealed the mermaid pearl so that Arbor wouldn't know that there was such a powerful weapon in his body. Perhaps it was to protect her, or perhaps it was just as Arbor thought. Her mother would rather she grow up to be a happy and healthy ordinary person and never get involved in the dirty affairs of the aristocratic families. But it was obvious that things didn't go as planned. After all, if she didn't improve, she would be at the mercy of others, just like in her previous life. She couldn't back down. Taking a step back wasn't the end of the world, but it was the end of the world. It was a heavy burden that she couldn't bear. Xiaomu's face was frosty as she gazed deeply at Long Qian. She no longer needed to ask her why she had attacked her mother. How could she be so heartless as to do such a thing? She didn't want to think about, listen to, or see the cause and effect. Buzz! The fiery evil mosquitoes flew out from her inner world and flew towards the mermaids. At the same time, Qi Xianxian and the others saw countless little black scorpions crawling on the beach behind them. There were tens of thousands of them, and it was enough to make one's scalp go numb. The fiery evil mosquitoes attacked from above, while the scorpions crawled from below. Long Qian's face changed. She waved the scepter in her hand and shot out a ray of holy power. Long she shouted loudly, "Back off, everyone back off." Long Qian shouted coldly, "We can't retreat. Everyone, get into formation, and be careful of these mosquitoes." Be careful, retreat? If they retreated, they would be in the ocean. If they retreated into the ocean, wouldn't that mean that the mermaids wanted to retreat? At this very moment, Xiaomu was like a god of death. A cold glint suddenly appeared in the depths of her icy eyes. There was not a trace of light in her eyes, and they were instantly enveloped by pitch-black darkness. "All of you deserve to die," Arbor said coldly. "Kill the Heavenly Fate battle team. Everyone listen up." "Yes, sir." The shouts of all the members of the Heavenly Fate squad shook the sky. The Forgotten River Dragon clan betrayed their trust and abandoned their morals. They joined an evil cult and persecuted their own people. "He'll be treated as a public enemy of humanity," Xiaomu declared coldly and expressionlessly. "Forget River Dragon clan and forget River clan. Kill them all." Yes, under the lead of the various captains, the Kill Tianyun battle team charged towards the Forgotten River Dragon clan and Forgotten River Duo clan. After the two came into contact with each other, the captain of the Kill Heavenly Fate squad was the first to chop off the head of a member of the Forget River Duo clan. You don't want to be a good person, but you want to be the Heavenly Fortune's lackey. Kill! 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 Rousing battle cries resounded throughout the area at the same time, killing more than 29,000 people of the Tianyun team, forming hundreds of square formations. One by one broke through the defensive formations of the two great aristocratic families of the River of Forgetfulness. In addition to the Forgotten River Duo Clan and Forgotten River Dragon Clan, they had to defend against the Kill Heavenly Fate battle team. Secondly, they had to guard against the fiery evil mosquitoes and the scorpions under their feet. It was very tiring. Chapter 4701. A few of the Forgotten River Duo clansmen were attacked by the Sea of Scorpions because they were a step too late. Wherever the scorpions went, the few of them would be eaten clean, leaving only a pile of bones on the ground. Duo Chang jumped up and down. While defending himself, he killed all the fiery demon poisonous mosquitoes that flew in front of him. He looked at Long Qian anxiously. What's going on? Didn't you say that the 13th Elder would be here? Where are they? What kind of joke was this? Was this a lie? In order to cooperate with the Forgotten River Dragon Clan, he had mobilized half of the clan's elite disciples to support them. In order to save his youngest son, he had to take a share of the loot. The 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl was too eye-catching. The Dragon Clan leader had promised him that once he obtained the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl, he would allow the Duo Clan leader to choose 100 elite disciples to receive the baptism of the pearl. By then these disciples might not be able to change their potential, but the next generation that they gave birth to would definitely be able to improve their potential. This was something that the Dragon Clan leader had promised in black and white. There was no way it could run away. If it wasn't for this benefit, why would he allow half of the clan's elite disciples to come and help? It was because of the 13th Elder that the Duo Clan leader was so calm. As long as he could summon the 13th Elder, what couldn't be done? But now what was going on? The Duo Clan leader watched as the disciples of the Duo Clan were defeated by the scorpions and fiery demon poisonous mosquitoes. A few of the disciples were left with only a pile of bones. The Duo Clan leader couldn't help but tremble. He turned around and shouted at the Dragon Clan leader. When will they be here? Long Qian glared at the Duo Clan leader. Why are you so anxious? I'm more anxious than you are. The Duo Clan leader had only mobilized half of their elite disciples. As for the Dragon Clan, they had mobilized all of their clansmen. Basically all of them were here. It could be said that the entire Dragon Clan had turned out in full force. When the nest is overturned, no egg can remain intact. Long Qian coldly glared at the head of the Duo family. What good would it do for me to lie to you? You and I will form an alliance and fight against Tianyun. That is a sure thing. If I plot against the Duo family and cause them to die, what benefits will I get? How could I not understand the logic of a single tree being unable to support a tree? In the entire River of Forgetfulness, our two great clans are linked together. We can't cast anyone aside. Hearing this, the Duo Clan leader knew that the Dragon Clan leader was right. His heart calmed down a little. Just now, he suspected that the Dragon Clan's patriarch had tricked him and tricked his people into coming here to die. Now that he heard Long Qian's words, he felt a little better. However, he was still extremely anxious. The Duo Clan leader smiled awkwardly at Long Qian and quickly said, You used a secret technique to summon the 13th Elder, but if the Heavenly Tao stopped you, how could they pass? Have you heard of the God-inviting talisman? You used the God-inviting talisman. No, we used a secret technique. The Dragon Clan leader looked at the Duo Clan leader coldly. Do you think I'm lying to you? Didn't I tell you before? Chapter 4702. Duo Chang coughed awkwardly. I don't know. Dragon Clan leader. Why don't you just tell me whether the 13th Elder can come or not? This secret technique of yours, is it reliable? Long Qian glanced at Duo Chang coldly. She now had reason to doubt whether Duo Chang could be a qualified partner with his IQ. He was simply stupid. This secret technique can only be used once in 100 years. This is our Dragon Clan's secret, so I naturally can't tell you how to use it. In fact, there was a huge price to pay after using this secret technique. First of all, as the clan leader, Her body would rapidly deteriorate in just a few days, and there was no way to save her. Second, if the summoning was successful, the 13th Elder could only stay in the 3 continents for no more than 2 hours. Finally, if the summoning was unsuccessful as the summoner, Long Qian would directly suffer a powerful backlash from the heavenly Tao and be killed on the spot. As the summoner, Long Qian knew very well that the summoning was successful. The 13th Elder would definitely come, but for some reason, they hadn't appeared yet. I'm not doing this for myself, Long Qian said to herself when she summoned the 13th Elder. I'm doing this for the future of the Dragon Clan, and to create a powerful Dragon Clan. Although she might not be able to see the Dragon Clan prosper in the future, she felt that the bright future was right in front of her. She could almost see it waving at her. Since the God-inviting talisman can summon people from the holy region, our secret technique doesn't go against the heavenly Tao. Duo Chang heard the Dragon Clan leader say this to himself. Joy and excitement immediately appeared in Duo Chang's eyes, but he was quickly defeated by the reality in front of him. The overwhelming number of sand scorpions had already killed many of the Duo Chang clansmen. Duo Chang was anxious and urged the Dragon Clan leader. Why don't you use your secret technique to urge them? I think the enemy's firepower is really strong. Duo Chang's heart was in a mess. He wanted to know if the Dragon Clan leader had any tricks up her sleeve. The 13th Elder is probably having a hard time dealing with those transcendent state experts around her. Can we take down that little stoic? Why not? There was a strange look in Long Qian's eyes, as if she could see the little stoic's future, as well as her tribe's future. Sparks of joy danced in her eyes, alternating clearly and secretly. She already had a foolproof plan. Even if Arbor summoned the holy beast demonic dragon, she still had the power to resist it. Everyone stay close and defend. Get into a defensive formation and follow me. Long Qian was the first to release a surge of saint energy, surrounding the few people around him. The green branch scepter in his hand suddenly emitted a brilliant light. As if it could split the heavens and earth, it charged towards the group of sand scorpions ahead. After a loud bang, the beach was split open, and a white mark was formed. Duo Chang's eyes flashed, and he suddenly turned to look at the Dragon Clan's patriarch. How could this be? The Dragon Clan leader's cultivation had always been on par with his. They were both mystique venerable rank cultivators. But looking at her now, it seemed as if she had suddenly advanced to the next level, and somehow reached the peak of the spiritual elder realm? How could he improve so quickly? Why did it feel like the Dragon Clan's clan leader was on steroids? Chapter 4703. With the Dragon Clan's patriarch leading the way, they blasted open a gap in the sand scorpions. 5,000 to 6,000 elite disciples from the 2 great families of Forgotten River bravely moved forward and fought with the members of the Heavenly Fate Alliance from afar. Spiritual power flew around each other, and the 5 spirits of different colors formed a vortex in front of everyone, stirring the air in front of them. The sky darkened and pressed down. It was as if the entire sky was filled with darkness in an instant. Light and shadow flickered, and a figure appeared from the clouds. Duo Chang looked up, and his heart skipped a beat. The excitement on his face was indescribable. It's the 13th Elder. It was indeed the 13th Elder. They came extremely quickly, and in the blink of an eye, they descended from the clouds. These 13 elders were all elders of the Forgotten River Dragon Clan, who had ascended to the holy region. Everyone's face was filled with murderous intent. Long Qian also couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He cupped his hands and bowed to one of the elders. Elders, please help us deal with these people in front of us. As for the little stoic, she had her own place to belong. As long as all the transcendent realm experts around her were delayed, she would have a way to deal with this immature little brat. The 13 elders from the holy region basically didn't say a word. They quickly threw out sacred power attacks in the direction of Sheng Chun, Holy Sun Mi Yen, and the others. Only one of the elders who looked kind looked at Long Qian. After a long while he said, "You are the current Dragon Clan's patriarch. Please forgive me, old ancestor." Long Qian bowed, neither servile nor overbearing. Because of family matters, I had no choice but to alarm old ancestor. It's Long Qian's fault. That elder waved his hand and sighed softly. Since you are thinking for the future of our entire dragon clan, there is nothing to blame. However, why were there so many transcendent realm experts in this team of tens of thousands of people? Why were these transcendent realm experts not abandoned by the heavenly Tao and ascended to the holy region? A strange premonition slid through the dragon clan's patriarch's heart, as if some unknown disaster was about to befall them. What kind of terrifying premonition was this? The elder of the dragon clan only felt a heavy haze in his heart. He thought that it would be better to quickly resolve the matter at hand and then hurry back to the sacred region. Junior, how dare you be so impudent? One of the dragon clan's ancestors shouted and swept his sleeve towards Qi Xianxian and the others. Seeing this, Holy Sun Miyin turned pale with fright and hurriedly pushed Qi Xianxian away. Turning around, he could only take the force of the old man's flick. The other party was obviously a hierarch expert. With a wave of his hand, Miyan's body was sent flying. Lord Saint, Qi Xianxian and the rest were shocked, and they immediately chased after Miyan's flying figure. Arbor's pupils shrank, and he immediately released several saint beasts from the star field. At the same time, the dragon clan's ancestor who was talking to Long Qian earlier twitched his nose and turned around abruptly. The 13 ancestors of the dragon family all stared at Arbor. You have the aura of a divine domain opening. This little girl with an ice-cold face and expressionless face from beginning to end was actually a child with great fortune? The aura of a divine domain opening just now was mysterious and attractive. It really made people look at her. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.